Chapter 181. C-181 I want to kill dragons. Silence. Deathly silence. Chen Xiao was stunned, a big question mark appeared in his head. What is a legend? Who is Zazahui? Why do you want to kill your brother? These questions lingered in his mind. Wait, dragon-slaying knife. Chen Xiao caught this key word, his eyes were filled with uncertainty, and a chill ran down his back. This weapon is called the dragon-slaying knife, and it is specially used to slay dragons. Doesn't that mean? Chen Xiao was extremely frightened when he thought about it, and he had an ominous premonition in his heart. Golden legend. This is the most advanced weapon. Hong Chenyi on the other side stared at the dragon-slaying knife, her breathing almost stagnant. Before, he even suspected that weapons of this level did not exist at all, because after picking up so many light groups and killing so many monsters, at most they would only drop epic level fragments, let alone collect legendary level fragments to form a complete legend. Level weapons. But now, that guy just took it out. It's him, it's definitely him. Combined with the confusing speech of the bald man just now, Hong Chenyi immediately determined that the identity of this person behind the scenes was 100% his shameless bastard master. Rumble. Suddenly, a terrifying aura like a volcanic eruption rose into the sky, and a high-pitched dragon roar resounded across the sky. I don't believe it. I am the son of destiny. This inheritance is mine. I am the winner who survives to the end. Chen Xiao roared up to the sky, his long hair flying wildly, his muscles expanded rapidly, and his height suddenly increased to 5 meters. Golden dragon scales spread all over his body, emitting a bright light like the scorching sun. Behind him, a thick and big dragon tail kept swinging, which could easily blast huge rocks. Those dragon eyes gradually turned red, full of violence and ferocity. In an instant, a terrifying and huge murderous intention was firmly locked on the bald man. The donkey was trembling with fear and did not dare to move. Yi Junlin patted its head and said angrily, "Why are you shaking? How can you find a little female donkey like this?" Hearing this, the donkey was so angry that he shook his head violently, which meant that if you go ahead, go ahead. At this moment, Chen Xiao exerted the power of the dragon in his body to the extreme. Although he suffered the side effects of physical pain, this pain was nothing compared to the victory that was so close at hand. Now there is only one voice in his mind: kill this biggest threat and become the new master of Immortal Island. I want you to die. Chen Xiao's chest swelled rapidly like air, and then he opened his mouth and sprayed out a golden shock wave about 10 feet wide, which contained the terrifying power to destroy all living beings. I have the sword in my hand, and I own the world. Yi Junlin held the dragon-slaying sword in his hand, sword up and struck hard. A brilliant, immortal sword light shattered the sky and forcibly split the golden shock wave into 2 halves. What? Chen Xiao was so shocked that his pupils shrank and he quickly evaded. The domineering sword light passed by his body, and the threat of death so close at hand made Chen Xiao's mind clear up instantly. Scary. So scary. If they were caught one by one, they would either die or be disabled. Chen Xiao suppressed the throbbing in his heart, and his brain began to think of countermeasures, making a strategic analysis of the bald man. Except for the golden legendary weapon in his hand, this person's equipment is only purple and rare, which means defense is his weakness. As long as I find an opportunity, there is no chance of winning. That's right, as long as you find the opportunity. Chen Xiao's eyes burst out with sparkle, and when he raised his hand to move, 2 giant dragons, one black and one white, condensed, lifelike and domineering. When he fought hard, the 2 dragons swung their tails and roared away. The scene was very gorgeous. The dragon-slaying knife slays the dragon. Seeing 2 giant dragons, one black and one white, attacking with unparalleled power, Yi Junlin slashed with his sword without hesitation. The brilliant sword light illuminated the entire sky, which was extremely sacred. Roar! The 2 giant dragons bared their teeth and claws, trying to engage in a fight around this tiny figure. Unexpectedly, the power of the sword light was so overbearing that it cut them in half, and the bursts of light were like rain. Now, whoosh, a dragon figure swooped down at an incredibly fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it came behind the bald man, concentrated its energy on the dragon's claws, and then struck out fiercely. There was a loud bang, similar to the dull sound of a golden bell being beaten. This is, Chen Xiao's whole arm was vibrating, feeling the pressure from the dragon's claws, his expression was in disbelief. At this time, behind the bald man, there was a red gold shield, and the source of the energy was the dragon-slaying knife in his hand. This is the skill of the dragon-slaying knife, which provides 100% no dead-end defense, ensuring that the wielder can slay the dragon safely. That's very considerate. It's pretty fast. The bald man turned around calmly, the funny face on his face seemed to be making a mockery. You! Chen Xiao was shocked and angry, feeling that his dignity had been insulted. He clenched his dragon claws into fists, and with surging strength in his arms, he kept punching the bald man in front of him. At the same time, the red gold shield automatically unfolded in front of the bald man, resisting the fist attack like a sudden storm. Bang 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 bang, the dull sound like a beating drum spread, making people feel panicked. Yi Junlin was a little depressed. I didn't seem to say anything. Why is this guy so anxious? Little did he know that with this funny face, even a simple greeting would make people think that he was greeting the whole family in a friendly way. Yi Junlin shook his head. To avoid consuming too much mana, he held the dragon-slaying sword and started to attack. Swish, 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 the sharp sword energy washed over the earth, and countless sand and gravel rolled. Come on, Chen Xiao screamed hysterically, his expression was very crazy. As long as he defeated this person, he would be the final winner. Seeing such a huge battle, the seriously injured purple-clad young man not far away was shocked, but the next second he seemed to think of something, and the corner of his mouth raised an evil arc. Fight, fight hard, it's best if all of you die together. As a bystander, Hong Chenyi sneered again and again. At this time, he tried his best to reduce his presence, and watched the two figures fighting each other with fiery eyes. As long as the two biggest competitors fall, he can live to the end naturally. Just as Hong Chenyi was dreaming about the spring and autumn period, a series of amazing energy surged and spread. Puff! Hong Chenyi was shocked to spit out blood, his face was in pain, his body rolled on the spot for more than 10 times, and hit the mountain wall hard. He felt that his internal organs were shaking and his bones were crackling. His equipment was blown up, and his own defense was reduced to the lowest. Facing this terrible energy, he could not resist it at all. Stay away, otherwise you will be. Hong Chenyi gritted his teeth, feeling very aggrieved, struggling to get up, so as not to be swept into the vortex of the battle. But it was too late. The energy waves stirred up by the two figures, each of which could destroy wood and rocks, fell on Hong Chenyi like a thunderbolt, causing him to spit out blood and pain, and his breath was extremely weak. With a feeling that is difficult to describe in words, Hong Chenyi's lips moved a few times and he managed to utter a few words, almost enough. As soon as the voice fell, the two fighting figures suddenly approached, and the energy airflow released surged. Feeling the breath of death, Hong Chenyi's eyes widened, and he was so angry that he cursed on the spot. You guys did it on purpose, right? The next second, a huge pain spread throughout the body, and before he could even scream, his consciousness had already sunk into darkness. After the storm, a wooden box appeared on the ground. That's right, he was killed by the aftermath of the battle. This story tells us that when the big guys fight, don't be a spectator, otherwise you may be the next unlucky one. Chapter 182. C-182 Brother Wudi, give me a chance. As Hong Chenyi turned into a box, the number of people displayed on the map was reduced to 2. The next first place will be born from those 2. At this time, Chen Xiao used all his skills, and the more he fought, the more frightened he became. He even felt despair and a deep sense of powerlessness. Before, he was still thinking about finding the right opportunity to break the opponent's defense, so that he could have a chance to turn the tables, but now, he just wanted to say, no chance at all. As the saying goes, flies don't bite seamless eggs. If he is compared to a fly, then the bald man in front of him is covered with a large iron shell with no dead angles in all directions. Facing the crazy attack of this dragon man jumping up and down and swinging left and right, Yi Junlin always looked perfunctory. He exposed many flaws throughout the process, but these flaws would be replaced by the red gold light shield to block his powerful attack. This made Chen Xiao sweat profusely, just like the delicious food in his mouth was always taken away, clearly within reach but out of reach. Why, don't you have any weaknesses? Chen Xiao collapsed and yelled hysterically. Stop making noise. Yi Junlin yawned, and felt that his mana was almost restored. He gave up using the dragon-slaying sword and started to get serious, intending to end this battle. Swish! A terrifying and domineering sword light burst out in an instant, spreading with overwhelming power. In the field of vision, there was golden light everywhere, which simply filled the entire eye socket, and everything he looked at was wrapped in golden light. In an instant, Chen Xiao only felt a great terror attacking his heart, and his whole body was as cold as falling into the abyss. Facing this brilliant sword light that wanted to shatter the world, he roared in extreme panic, trying to give himself courage. Boom! The surroundings shook, and the sky was eclipsed. The male donkey and the female white tiger were so scared that they hugged each other. During this time, they looked at each other, and strange feelings filled their hearts. After the light disappeared, on the fragmented land, a bald man carried a domineering dragon-slaying sword, stood with his back to the crowd, with a few big words on his head. Invincible, so lonely. At this moment, the effect of pretending to be cool was directly pulled to the maximum. In front of him, a miserable figure knelt on the ground, the 2 dragon horns on his forehead were broken, the dragon scales covering his body were broken, and blood was dripping. This person was weak and stared blankly. Facing this invincible bald figure, Chen Xiao gradually came back to his senses, his lips moved a few times, tears flashed in the corners of his eyes, and his voice was faintly crying, "Brother Invincible, give me a chance. I can't beat him at all. The dragon-slaying sword is indeed for slaying dragons, and the power of the dragon that he is proud of has been restrained from beginning to end." In this situation, Yi Junlin shook his head and said with emotion, "Invincible, it's really lonely." After saying that, he swung the dragon-slaying sword in his hand and passed through Chen Xiao's neck without any hindrance. Chen Xiao glared with anger, and he had countless greetings to his family in his heart, but he didn't have time to say it out loud, and he was beheaded directly. As his body slowly dissipated and turned into a square wooden box, it also indicated that this round of levels had come to an end. Wow! In the sky, countless sacred rays of light burst out, colorful auspicious clouds appeared, and the fairy music sounded, as if celebrating the victory of the final survivor. Suddenly, a mechanical voice rang out between the whole world, "Congratulations to this trialist, good luck, and successful clearance." Finally got the chicken, Yi Junlin sighed. Think about it carefully, it's not easy. If this was heard by others, they would break their defense on the spot and greet their whole family in anger. You are worthy of saying this. Have some shame. Shua, a dazzling beam of colorful light shot out from the depths of the sky and shone on Yi Junlin. Yi Junlin ascended on the spot, getting farther and farther away from the ground. Before leaving, perhaps because of an illusion, Yi Junlin saw the donkey and the white tiger holding hands and waving goodbye to him. After his consciousness left the chicken-eating battlefield, when Yi Junlin opened his eyes again, he found himself in the universe, surrounded by magnificent stars, gorgeous nebulae, and debris floating in space. What is this? Yi Junlin looked surprised. Why did he appear here? Suddenly, a series of huge rumbling sounds came. Following the sound of the explosion, Yi Junlin's pupils contracted and saw the most gorgeous huge star in the distance, which was now besieged by a huge army of cultivators. A large number of huge warships and steel fortresses were advancing the front layer by layer. Countless figures of different races urged magic weapons to attack frantically. The scene was very grand and unimaginable. The vast and huge star under siege made Yi Junlin feel familiar with his mother planet. Is this Kunlun realm? Yi Junlin was shocked. Kunlun realm was under attack from an alien army. He wanted to take action, but found that he could not move. He could only watch as a bystander. Is this a scene from ancient times? Now it is back in front of me. Yi Junlin calmed down and pondered. At this moment, countless roars came from Kunlun realm. The monks of major sects and dynasties went out to intercept this huge alien coalition. They were filled with immortal light and boiling immortal energy. They were already at the immortal level. The immortals of Kunlun realm appeared in the universe, and a fierce battle broke out with the mighty enemy army. The immortals were bleeding and mad. Wow! Yi Junlin was surprised and said, was Kunlun realm so strong before? The number of immortals is too much. Unlike now, there are few immortals, and the Tribulation realm is the top boss, high above. But in this immortal war, the Tribulation realm is not even as good as a dog. Each person is an immortal level strongman. Ancient Kunlun, so terrifying. Just when Yi Junlin sighed. The battle has entered a white-hot stage, and the starry sky trembled, the sun and the moon were forever silent, and the surrounding affiliated stars were forced to change their orbits, and some were even affected and shattered in the terrible aftermath of the battle. The overall situation has been decided. Why do you have to resist stubbornly? An unknown ancient existence in the foreign coalition sneered. During the fight, a creature who seemed to be at the level of an immortal emperor roared, "We cultivators are not afraid of a fight. We swear to live and die with Kunlun realm." The voice contained surging immortal power, which almost spread to every corner of the universe, making many powerful people watching the battle secretly frightened and their scalps numb. That's right, the cultivators of Kunlun realm were boiling with blood and roared continuously. HMPH, stubborn. The ancient existence said coldly. That's right, you are obviously an abandoned chess piece, and you really hope that the divine court can send someone to save you. Another ancient creature sneered, revealing a huge amount of information in his words. Without relying on the divine court, Kunlun realm can also save itself. An immortal emperor with a dragon head and a human body said angrily. Very good, this is what you asked for. I propose to directly mobilize the river of death to flood this planet. No matter how much it costs, as long as we can conquer Kunlun realm. Agree. Seeing the fierce resistance of the Kunlun realm cultivators, the foreign coalition spent a huge price to draw the river of death that made the entire universe creatures tremble, ready to wash away the Kunlun realm in one go. Not good. Retreat to Kunlun realm. Several blood-stained immortal emperors shouted hurriedly. Then, leaving countless corpses in a panic, the remaining Kunlun realm cultivators retreated one after another, hiding in the mother world and offering a protective shield to prepare for resistance. Every drop of water in the river of death contains pure death power. Even an immortal who is contaminated with half a drop will perish, not to mention that the other party is mobilizing this river of death to wash away Kunlun realm. This move is simply a big deal, and I don't know how much it will cost. Boom, the void passage was opened, and a gray river, symbolizing death, gushed out. The water was very turbulent and filled with death. Rather than a river, it is better to say it is a galaxy. Because this river of death is too big, ordinary planets thrown into it are like small stones, and at most they splash small waves. At this time, the Kunlun realm was washed by the river of death, and the light shell covered the surface of this huge star, interweaving with order runes, flickered for a while, and showed signs of collapse. Haha, Kunlun realm is going to die. Several giants supervising the battle in the foreign coalition sneered complacently. At the critical moment, a majestic voice mixed with anger sounded, I am here, you can't succeed. Formation. The grand voice resounded in all directions with determination, and fell clearly into the ears of every living being. As soon as the voice fell, a supergiant formation emerged, bursting out hundreds of millions of obscure runes. Rumble. Instantly, the river of death strangely changed direction and rushed towards the foreign coalition forces. Oh no, it's the island owner of the fairy island who made a move. Can the Supreme Formation do this? It can even change the direction of the river of death. Let's retreat quickly, otherwise, the whole army will be wiped out. Soon, this mighty river of death rushed the foreign coalition forces into pieces, and the number of deaths was countless. Only a very small number of them were able to escape by luck. The battle situation that was originally doomed to fail was reversed in an instant. The cultivators of Kunlun realm were cheering and crying with joy. Papa. Seeing this, Yi Junlin couldn't help but applaud and was amazed. This wave is an extreme operation. I admire it. Wait, are they talking about the island owner of the fairy island? Yi Junlin suddenly reacted and widened his eyes. With his own strength, he changed the direction of the entire battle and protected billions of lives in Kunlun realm. He turned out to be the owner of the immortal island. I thought the owner of this inheritance was barely well known in ancient times, but I never expected that he would be so famous. Just when Yi Junlin was shocked by the methods of the owner of the immortal island, a familiar voice came from behind. Junior, it's surprising, this is part of the truth of Kunlun realm back then. Who? Yi Junlin turned around subconsciously and saw a middle-aged Taoist priest standing there, reaching out to stroke his beard, with an indescribable elegance. Who are you? Listen carefully, I am Lu Wangshu, the owner of the immortal island, and also the recognized formation master in all the heavens and worlds. Chapter 183. C-183 Shenting and Juyu. The majestic voice echoed, as if ringing in every corner of the universe. In conjunction with Lu Wangshu's appearance, he seemed to have a very high level of style. When saying this, Lu Wangshu deliberately leaned back and almost pointed his nostrils at Yi Junlin, which showed how proud he was of his identity. The main thing is, Yi Junlin used various unimaginable methods to pass 3 rounds of levels before, which made Lu Wangshu feel very complicated. He felt a sense of loss that a carefully designed mechanism could be cracked at will. Lu Wangshu was hit hard by this, but because of his temperament he was very unconvinced, so he wanted to put on airs and kill Yi Junlin's spirit. This moment, time is like pressing the pause button, and there is no response quietly. Huh, Junior, you must have been scared to death by me. Lu Wangshu was extremely proud, this wave of power was very successful. As a result, a serious inquiry came from the other side, well, where are your 5 tiger generals? Clam. Lu Wangshu was stunned. What are the 5 tiger generals? Seeing that this man called himself Uncle Lu Huang, Yi Junlin pondered for a few seconds and then wittily issued a soul torture. Junior, I don't understand what you mean. Lu Wangshu said with a dark face and rolled down his sleeves. He always felt that this silver-haired young man had a weird brain circuit. But considering that the other party came from a distant future, perhaps because he couldn't keep up with the rhythm, Lu Wangshu didn't pursue it too much. Then I'll call you Senior Lu, Yi Junlin said seriously. Yes, Lu Wangshu nodded with satisfaction. This boy was finally on the right track. Senior Lu, it turns out you're not dead. Yi Junlin said with emotion as he looked at this middle-aged Taoist priest with an air of immortality. Lu Wangshu, are you polite? Lu Wangshu said angrily. What I left on Immortal Island back then was just a spiritual thought. This is not my true body. Thank you. Oh, Yi Junlin seemed to have a clear understanding, and then grasped the key point and continued to ask, then are you still alive now? Lu Wangshu, okay, 2 goals, right. Lu Wangshu wanted to retort neatly, but he seemed to think of something, and the corners of his mouth twitched a few times. Well, your question is very profound, and I don't know how to answer it now. Because he is just a spiritual thought, he actually does not know whether his body is dead or alive. His duty is to stay on the immortal island, waiting for the destined person to inherit it, and then reveal the inside story of the year. After the dust settles, it will automatically dissipate. Yi Junlin's eyes flickered. It turned out that the other party was equivalent to a designed program, and it had no way of knowing how the designer was doing. Okay, let's get to the point. Senior Lu, do you think that what I saw just now is part of the truth about the Kunlun world back then? Yi Junlin looked at the star that was gradually dimming, like a flower that withered and withered. That's right. Seeing that he was no longer obsessed with the issue of life and death, Lu Wangshu's ugly expression softened and he said in a deep voice. This was a fairy war that broke out at the end of ancient times, and it was also a turning point in the fate of the Kunlun realm. At that time, drastic changes occurred within the Kunlun realm. There were traitors who colluded with foreign forces and polluted the star core of the Kunlun realm. The inside and outside cooperated, and the allied forces from outside the territory took advantage of this to launch a massive attack, attempted to destroy our Kunlun realm, and that's why the scene you saw happened. Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows and searched the memory in this body's mind. He found that he had never heard of the word star core before and deliberately asked, Senior Lu, what is a star core? As people from the Kunlun realm, you don't know what a star core is. Lu Wangshu looked surprised, looking like an idiot. Because in his time, this was something that every living thing knew. Yi Junlin spread his hands and shook his head helplessly. Hey, I didn't expect that the Kunlun world in later generations would be in such a state of decline that they don't even know such common sense things. Forget it, as a senior, let me explain it to you, a junior. Lu Wangshu was somewhat complacent and cleared his throat. The star core is the core source that maintains a planet. For example, the star core in the Kunlun world maintains the operation of the entire world. The cultivation environment in heaven and earth is also closely related to it. Quote, after the star core of Kunlun realm was polluted, it was difficult to maintain the operation of the entire world, and the cultivation environment deteriorated as a result. The originally bright golden age was cut in half, and all races of creatures wailed, and from then on they entered a long period of loneliness. Quote, mentioning this, Lu Wangshu sighed for a while. Yi Junlin frowned. Since the star core is so important, how could it be easily obtained by traders? Wasn't the Kunlun world full of immortals at that time? Why wasn't it discovered and stopped in time? Hey, because the trader's strength and identity are at the top level in the Kunlun world, there were only 3 people who could check and balance him back then. Lu Wangshu gritted his teeth with hatred. Oh, Yi Junlin narrowed his eyes. Who is he? I thought it was the villain who was causing trouble, but it turned out that the big boss betrayed me. Lu Wangshu's eyes burst out with a piercing light, and he said in an extremely hateful tone, he was one of the 4 great masters of the Kunlun realm back then, Chaos. Chaos. Yi Junlin was stunned. This was really a strange name. Wait a minute, what are the 4 unique arts of Kunlun realm you are talking about? The so-called 4 masters of Kunlun realm means 4 people who stand at the top of Kunlun realm and are recognized as the strongest by all living beings. Lu Wangshu said in a deep voice. They are Emperor Tian, Empress Fuyao, Cheng Shengwang, and Luan. The chaos you are talking about has such a respected position in the Kunlun world. Why did he suddenly betray his own world? And after what happened, why didn't the other 3 come forward to fight against the extraterrestrial coalition forces? Yi Junlin said doubtfully. Faced with one question after another, Lu Wangshu answered patiently, the extraterritorial coalition forces you mentioned are all from Juyu, and they are the opposite camp to Shenting. During the chaos, they secretly cooperated with Juyu, and cooperated with outsiders to cause harm. In Kunlun realm, we still don't know why he did this and what kind of agreement he reached with Juyu. As for the other three, after Luan contaminated the star core, they were frightened and angry and took action to keep Luan. Luan was seriously injured and betrayed the Kunlun world. Those three forces wanted to capture him and give an explanation to all the sentient beings in the Kunlun world. As a result, during the pursuit, we were caught in a well-prepared ambush by many of Juyu's most powerful men. Emperor Tian was captured alive, Empress Fuyao fell, and the whereabouts of the immortal man are unknown. Speaking of this, Lu Wangshu's eyes turned red, and his expression could not hide his grief. Even a spiritual thought could restore the original emotion. Without the control of those three people, coupled with the pollution of the star core, the Kunlun world will inevitably go downhill. At the most critical moment, Juyu took advantage of the opportunity to launch an attack. That battle was unprecedentedly brutal. The immortals of the Kunlun realm fought bloody battles with countless casualties, just to prevent the invasion of the Nine Nether Alliance. Originally, as long as Juyu continued to consume, the Kunlun realm would be in danger of being breached. Who would have thought that in order to reduce the casualties of the army, they cleverly mobilized the most terrifying river of death in the universe in an attempt to destroy the Kunlun realm? It was because of this move that they gave my chance to turn defeat into victory. Lu Wangshu sneered and said, thanks to the formation I arranged in advance, I forcibly changed the direction of the river of death and defeated the Juyu coalition forces in one fell swoop. This caused Juyu to suffer heavy losses and dare not continue to invade our Kunlun realm. Unfortunately, in the Kunlun realm where the star core is polluted, the environment of the world is getting worse and worse. In addition, it has been washed by the river of death before, which has damaged the will of heaven and distorted the laws, making it more difficult for immortals to survive. In order to improve this situation, I will join forces with other powerful people to use formations to change the star field dominated by the Kunlun realm, and gather the power of all realms to create a new world, and call it the Immortal Realm. In the future, every immortal who becomes an immortal will be able to ascend to an immortal world suitable for cultivation due to the harsh environment of the lower realm. Although it is not as good as the Kunlun realm in its heyday, it is generally considered to be relatively close. Hear the words. Yi Junlin suddenly realized, good guys, it turns out that you created the fairy world. Yes, this is a big deal. It is based on the formation I arranged. How about it? It's awesome, isn't it? Lu Wangshu said in a somewhat complacent tone. After all, not everyone can do this, not even the four ultimates of the Kunlun realm can do it. Only he, as the master of formations, is qualified to do this. Good job. Yi Junlin gave a thumbs up in approval. Oh, by the way, regarding the monks in the Kunlun realm, they must ascend to the immortal realm to travel the universe, otherwise they will be trapped and die in the Kunlun realm. Are you also the one who made this rule? Yi Junlin thought of this and asked again. Right. Lu Wangshu said calmly, because a large number of creatures have left the Kunlun realm before, we simply made a rule. Only those who ascend to the immortal realm are qualified to travel the universe. Otherwise, they can only stay in the Kunlun realm and are not allowed to go out. Don't blame us for being too overbearing. You must know that Kunlun realm has a very special status in the universe. There are many outsiders who are eyeing it. In order to prevent more monks from being incited to rebel and being caught when they go out, we must do this out of the overall situation. As a once high-ranking and eternal world, it has a very high prestige in the entire universe. Although it has declined, it is still eye-catching. If a monk goes out to explore, there are only two endings. One is to be incited to become a spy, and the other is to be captured alive, auction. It's so cruel and realistic. I understand. Yi Junlin nodded. This is the safest way to ensure the internal stability of Kunlun realm. Senior Lu, when the Kunlun realm was invaded by Juyu, were you indifferent to the divine court you mentioned? From what you say, this divine court has a great background, and even the Kunlun realm was protected by it. Yi Junlin felt a little strange. Since Shenting and Juyu are two major camps and are mortal enemies, why did Kunlun realm, as a member of Shenting, not receive help? He suddenly remembered that in the projection, there was an ancient existence in the Nine Nether Alliance, mocking the Kunlun realm as a chess piece abandoned by the divine court. Shenting. When he mentioned Shenting, Lu Wangshu's face instantly became angry, and he could see that he was full of resentment. Junior, I'm afraid you still don't know the origin of Shenting. Let me tell you, Shenting was established at the beginning of the birth of the universe. It is in charge of countless worlds, and the same is true for Juyu. It's just that Juyu in the world ruled by the Lord, the creatures there tend to be of the dark type. At the beginning, the relationship between the two camps was good, and they lived in harmony in the universe. However, for some unknown reason, the conflicts between the upper echelons of the two camps were aroused, until it evolved into a competition between the two camps. They invaded each other's world and competed for living space. At this point, the universe entered the era of confrontation between Shenting and Juyu. As for the Kunlun realm, it is the second-ranked existence among the 10 major realms under Shenting. Its status is extremely transcendent. During this period, it played a role that cannot be ignored in the fight against the Juyu alliance. Later, the Kunlun realm suffered a disaster and fell out of the ranking of the top 10 realms of Shenting. Shenting's attitude towards Kunlun realm became indifferent. In addition, the factions within Shenting were fighting fiercely, and the relationships involved were complicated. This led to Shenting didn't help. Lu Wangshu was indignant. Even he could not make a conclusion about this matter, but no matter what, it was an indisputable fact that the Divine Court abandoned the Kunlun realm. It seems that the Divine Court is not kind. Yi Junlin rubbed his chin and came to this conclusion. So, you must remember that if the Kunlun realm revives in the future, people from the Divine Court will come to contact you. You must be on guard. The cultivators of the Kunlun realm can only fight their way out and return to the peak by themselves. We can't trust anyone but ourselves. Lu Wangshu walked over and said with a serious face, if my calculation is correct, the Star Core has regained its vitality now, and the Kunlun realm has officially entered the recovery stage. All living beings will rise in the world of great struggle. Compared to the return of the 9 Nether Alliance, what is more worrying is that those powerful big worlds in the Divine Court camp will come to share a piece of the pie under the banner of protecting the Kunlun realm. Chapter 184. C-184 Island Owner, don't be so ridiculous. Yi Junlin nodded and said seriously, don't worry, no matter how many strong men come from the Divine Court and the 9 Netherworld, I will suppress them all. What? Lu Wangshu's expression suddenly became strange. He took 2 steps back and looked up and down at the silver-haired young man, wondering in his heart, are all young people nowadays so arrogant? The 4 masters of Kunlun realm back then, each of whom was above the immortal emperor, did not dare to say such big words. Can you be more awesome than them? Alas, it is a good thing for young people to be confident, but if they are too confident, they will be ignorant of the height of the world. Lu Wangshu suddenly felt that this young man with a good luck was good in every way, but he had no idea about the top strong men in the universe. Compared with others, your cultivation is like the gap between a drop of water and the sea. Wake up, this is the cruel truth. But what Lu Wangshu didn't know was that the young man standing in front of him was the real monster. If the 4 Supreme Masters had dared to attack him, the Kunlun realm would have instantly gained a 5th Supreme Master. Senior Lu, now that the last round of levels has passed, will the Immortal Island be handed over to me to inherit? Yi Junlin said. Hearing this, Lu Wangshu adjusted his state, stretched out his hand and gently stroked his beard, with an unfathomable smile on his face. Of course, from now on, the Immortal Island will be handed over to you to lead, and all the cultivation resources are at your disposal. The creatures living on the Immortal Island will regard you as the new master. This is the supreme immortal fate, which many cultivators dream of. Lu Wangshu really wants to see what kind of ecstatic expression this young man will have after learning this result. According to his understanding, the other party will either lose his composure and yell in excitement, or cry with joy and be grateful to him, or pretend to be calm and thank him after a brief excitement. Oh, Yi Junlin's face was indifferent, and there was not even a slight smile on his lips, as if the inheritance of the Immortal Island was dispensable to him, and it was not as real as a spicy and fragrant skewer. Seeing this, Lu Wangshu's smile froze on his face instantly. Wait, what's your attitude? Are you pretending, right, or are you pretending not to care? Lu Wangshu swore in his heart that he had never seen such a strange person in his life. You know, if his Immortal Island was put in the past, even those Immortal Emperor-level strongmen would be greedy. But now, there are cultivators who are indifferent. If it's just superficial work, then it can only be said that they are pretending too much. What hurts his self-esteem the most is that people are really expressing their true feelings and really disdain his inheritance. At this time, Lu Wangshu began to doubt himself. This doubt is like a man who is full of blood and is excited to do a big thing, but suddenly becomes powerless without any signs. I was very scared and lost. No, apart from the identity of the island master of Yunxian Island, I am still the master of formations. How can I be looked down upon by this junior? I must regain my face. Yi Junlin really has no interest in the inheritance of Yunxian Island. The reason he came to participate is for the sign and reward, plus each round of levels is quite fun, and it can also relieve boredom. After all, no matter how powerful this inheritance is, can it compare to his golden finger? Cultivation is not very tempting to him. Junior, what do you think of my formation level? Mentioning his best skill, Lu Wangshu showed a bit of pride and said with confidence. Yi Junlin thought for 2 seconds and said in a deep voice, very powerful. Quote. To be honest, after watching the flashback just now, Yi Junlin was indeed amazed by the superb skills of the island master of the fallen immortal island. For a moment, he felt a sense of admiration. After all, this is a great hero who directly saved billions of lives in the Kunlun realm. When Lu Wangshu heard these 2 words, he was very excited. He finally heard good things from this guy. Otherwise, he almost doubted whether he was really not good enough. That's for sure. My formation level is the best in the world. It is the recognized supreme level in all the heavens and worlds. Lu Wangshu said proudly. Supreme, is it the highest title of formation master? Yi Junlin asked. That's right. The level of formation master is subdivided into spirit formation master, earth formation master, sky formation master, Tao formation master, and supreme. Is there such a level division? I remember that the level is now divided into grades 1 to 9, and my level is equivalent to a 9th grade formation master. Yi Junlin said truthfully. Occasionally, the system will issue experience packages for daily sign-in, which are related to improving the formation. After receiving the experience packages, his formation level will also improve. As long as there is a suitable formation diagram, he can arrange a large formation to resist the tribulation realm. And Yi Junlin's senior brother Jin is also the peak master of Fusion Peak. He is currently a 9th grade formation master. He arranged the mountain protection formation himself. 9th grade formation master. Lu Wangshu heard this title for the first time, and his face became a little strange. He stretched out his palm, and 4 interlocking miniature formations appeared in his palm, similar to a holographic stereogram. There are a total of 4 formations. Try to deconstruct them. Let me see what level this so-called 9th grade formation master you mentioned is. Quote. Okay. Quote. Yi Junlin was in the mood and wanted to see what level he had reached. Half an hour had passed. Yi Junlin's forehead was covered with sweat, and it took him a lot of effort to barely unlock the first formation. That's enough. Lu Wangshu retracted his hand, shook his head and said disdainfully, the 9th grade formation master you mentioned is at best the peak of the spiritual formation master, and has not even reached the threshold of the earth formation master. Ah, this. Yi Junlin was a little surprised. He did not expect that the 9th grade formation master worshipped by the world had such a low gold content. It is conceivable how high the level of the formation master is. The level of the formation master is closely related to the mental power. If the mental power is not up to standard, even if you have superb skills, you cannot arrange the corresponding formation. As long as it is a living being, there is mental power stored in the mind, and mental power is naturally divided into high and low levels. So far, it is divided into 1 to 200 levels. As we all know, the strength of the cultivator is linked to the realm, but there are exceptions. His strength is not reflected in the cultivation, but completely relies on the level of mental power. On the surface, this person is a cultivator in the tribulation realm, but his mental power is extremely terrifying. Relying on some mental power techniques, he can even break through the sea of consciousness of a true immortal and forcibly wipe out the mind of a true immortal. Do you think this kind of person is scary? Lu Wangshu said meaningfully. Hearing this, Yi Junlin was moved. There are such strange people in the world. This is the first time I have heard of it. Wait, if the opponent attacks him with mental power, can it also trigger the mechanism of becoming stronger when encountering a strong opponent, and his mental power will instantly suppress him? Yi Junlin thought about it carefully and felt that it was feasible. He no longer had any fear for this freak who specialized in spiritual power, and even had an inexplicable expectation. Lu Wangshu felt that Yi Junlin's expression seemed a little strange. Why did he not feel scared, but even excited? Illusion, it must be an illusion. Lu Wangshu suppressed his inner doubts, cleared his throat and continued, it is very difficult to improve spiritual power. Now I will talk about the corresponding spiritual power thresholds of array masters. For example, spiritual array masters need spiritual power from level 10 to level 20. Earth array masters from level 21 to level 50. Heaven array masters from level 51 to level 100. Tao array masters from level 101 to level 199. And only when you reach level 200 are you qualified to become the array master. Hearing this, Yi Junlin stretched out his finger and said in surprise, Senior Lu, since you are called the Supreme Master of Formation, your mental power must be at the 200th level. Lu Wangshu immediately straightened his chest and raised his head, and uttered 2 words with a heavy breath, exactly. How about it, you admire me very much? Yi Junlin hurriedly asked. Then can you show it? Just take me as your target. If he directly touches the big boss, then his mental power will reach the top. Hearing this strange request, Lu Wangshu was surprised. How is it possible? I am just a divine thought, how can I have such a huge mental power as the main body? Yi Junlin waved his hand and comforted. It's okay, I don't blame you. Lu Wangshu opened his eyes wide. Why did this sound weird? Is he despised? Come on, although I am just a divine thought, I also have to save face. Besides, even if my mental power is at the 200th level, what does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with you? You don't think that if I use my spiritual power on you, your spiritual power level will become higher than mine, right? Tisk. It's inexplicable. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article feed. Placement. Below article feed. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 185. C-185. What kind of freak is this? Lu Wangshu was simply confused about Yi Junlin's attitude. He had never seen such a strange person in his life. Although I don't have 200 levels of mental power, I can detect how much other people's mental power is through some small means. Do you want to try it? Lu Wangshu made up his mind to make this guy with high ambitions and low abilities realize the reality. Mental power is very difficult to cultivate. The gap at each level is like a natural chasm to say the least. According to the spiritual power category of a spiritual formation master, it is between the 10th and 20th levels. But Lu Wangshu believes that Yi Junlin's mental power is estimated to have barely reached the 10th level. He can only reach the peak level of a spiritual formation master, but is still far from the threshold of an earth formation master. The reason for this concept is that Yi Junlin obviously does not understand the cultivation of mental power, and his knowledge in this area is almost blank, so it is normal for him to be relatively weak in this area. Even if you are a true immortal, your initial spiritual power is around level 20. What's more, you are not even an immortal now. Based on this, it will only be lower. Lu Wangshu said secretly. Okay, help me test it. Yi Junlin nodded. This was the first time he heard that there were such levels of spiritual power, and he felt very novel for a while. In addition, he has no concept of levels of mental power in his mind, so he also wants to have a rough identification method. Lu Wangshu put his fingers together, raised them in front of his chest and muttered something. Then he glared, pointed at Yi Junlin's eyebrows, and shouted softly, "Open." For an instant, Yi Junlin felt his head buzzing, and he could feel the sea of consciousness vibrating violently, as if a door was open, allowing people to peek into what was contained inside. HMPH, it's just as I expected, it's just 10 huh. Lu Wangshu originally thought that what he saw at first glance was the whole picture, but he found that there was more behind it. This feeling is like mistakenly thinking that you have seen the end of the road, only to be surprised when you turn a corner and find that there is still a broad road. Lu Wangshu continued to explore along the sea of consciousness, wanting to see how much mental power Yi Junlin had. As he continued to understand more deeply, his heart continued to shake. 15th level, 18th level, 20th level. Wait, there are still more. 21st level, 22nd level, 23rd level. Lu Wangshu's eyelids trembled. This young man's spiritual power level has far exceeded the basic level of a true immortal. This is not even the limit, and it has a tendency to continue upward. Calm down, be calm. I didn't become an immortal back then, but my mental power was already at level 30, which is even more outstanding than his talent. Lu Wangshu comforted himself in his heart, trying to find a reason to suppress Yi Junlin. After all, reaching the 30th level of mental power is the basic value of an ordinary immortal. He was not even an immortal at the beginning, but his mental power has been cultivated to the point where it is comparable to that of an immortal, which is enough to prove how terrifying this talent is. This proves that Lu Wangshu is worthy of being the only formation master in the Kunlun world, and the only one among all the immortal emperors whose spiritual power has reached the 200th level. Therefore, Lu Wangshu was full of confidence. His talent in this area was definitely at the monster level. Even the 4 masters of the Kunlun realm who used to be above the immortal emperor were willing to be inferior. No matter how powerful the genius of this future generation is, they will never be able to surpass him. Absolutely impossible. As a result, as soon as this idea appeared, it was overturned by the reality in front of him. Lu Wangshu suddenly felt like he was slapped in the face. His cheeks hurt and his eyes were bigger than bells. Wait, How come this kid's mental power has reached level 30? No, it has been exceeded. 31, 32, 35, 40, 43, 45. Lu Wangshu felt his mouth was dry, his lips were trembling uncontrollably, and his heart was filled with tears. Shocking beyond measure. If the 35th level of spiritual power is the basic upper limit of a heavenly immortal, then reaching the 45th level is the level of a mysterious immortal. This person has not yet become an immortal, but his mental power has already reached the level of a mysterious immortal. What kind of freak is this? The next second, Lu Wangshu's pupils trembled, as if he had seen a terrifying scene that he had never seen in his life. When he thought that the 45th level of mental power was already the limit of this man, who would have thought to continue to explore and found that there was something behind it? 46th level, 47th level, 55th level, 56th level, 60th level, 63rd level, 67th level, 70th level. At this time, Lu Wangshu's expression seemed to be frightened, his eyes almost popped out, his mouth opened wide, and his whole body was shaking like chaff. What is this concept? It's like you are fishing by the lake with nothing to do, and suddenly the fishing line shakes violently. You expected that the hook must be a big fish. When you excitedly pulled the fishing rod to throw the big fish up, you were hit hard. You were dragged into the lake, and in panic, you saw that what bit the hook was not a fish, but a terrifying dragon that was 1,000 meters long and entrenched at the bottom of the lake. Seeing this, Lu Wangshu's mentality cracked on the spot. If he had previously claimed to be a spiritual monster, the man in front of him was the ancestor of the monster. Monster, real monster. When he saw that Yi Junline's mental power had broken through the 90-level mark, there was still no end to the momentum. Lu Wangshu's scalp was numb and he was so frightened that he muttered, 91, 92, 93, 94. Finally, after the survey was completed, it was concluded that Yi Junline's mental power level was 100 levels. Everyone in the Kunlun world worshipped the Supreme Formation Master. Before he became an immortal, his spiritual power was at level 30. At that time, it was called a record that could never be broken, but now compared with this young man, he was instantly reduced to rubbish. What is the concept of 100 levels of mental power? If we say that the true immortal is the 20th level, the celestial immortal is the 30th level, the mysterious immortal is the 45th level, and the immortal lord is the 70th level, then reaching level 100 is the level of the immortal king. This person's spiritual power is comparable to that of the immortal king. Lu Wangshu felt very sad about this, feeling that he was a ridiculous clown. His most proud talent over the years had been crushed to pieces by a junior with an absolute advantage. But at the same time, Lu Wangshu felt very happy, because he felt that he had unintentionally unearthed a peerless treasure, and his attainments in formations would even surpass him in the future. With such a supreme evildoer, why would the Kunlun world not be revived? For a moment, Lu Wangshu didn't know whether he should cry or laugh. The two moods with a huge gap were switching repeatedly and mixed with each other. In the end, Lu Wangshu held his head with both hands, his face seemed to be crying and smiling, 100 levels woo woo ha 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 100 levels woo ha ha. Lu, Senior Lu, are you okay? Yi Junline was frightened by this reaction, and his stunned expression gradually turned weird. I asked you to test my mental strength, but what if I suddenly went crazy? At the same time, Yi Junline also grasped an important point and knew that his spirit was at level 100. Hey, it turns out I'm only at level 100. This is far behind Senior Lu's level 200. Senior Lu, you were really powerful back then. Yi Junline sighed from the bottom of his heart. He instinctively felt that compared with the 200 levels, there was a gap of a full 100 levels, and his mental power was quite weak. The crying and laughing suddenly stopped. Well, Lu Wangshu rushed forward as quickly as possible, grabbed Yi Junline's collar with both hands, and stared fiercely, as if he wanted to read something from the expression on Yi Junline's face. Did I make a mistake? Yi Junline was a little confused. When Lu Wangshu confirmed that Yi Junline was showing his true feelings and was not deliberately mocking, his expression softened slightly. No matter, this kid doesn't know what level his mental power is, so I'd better not tell him the truth yet. His temperament is destined to float to the sky. Indeed, your mental power has reached level 100 before you become an immortal. It's really... At the end of the sentence, Lu Wangshu suddenly looked ferocious, gritted his teeth, and the corners of his eyes twitched. It took a lot of effort to squeeze out a few words from between his teeth. Window. Underscore tabula equals window. Underscore tabula. Push mode, thumbs feed 01, container, tabula below article thumbnail, 300 times 250 feet, Placement, below article thumbnail -300 × 250 feet, target _ type, mix. Chapter 186. C-186 Shui Wuan. Cement seals my heart and I no longer love. I agree. Yi Junlin nodded. What he didn't know was that the mental power of the 100th level was already at the level of the immortal king. He had this level before becoming an immortal. He was unique in the heavens and the worlds. But what he didn't know was that the reason why he had such a vast mental power was actually because of the system in his mind. After all, it was normal for Yi Junlin, as the host, to have a certain increase in mental power with such an inexplicable thing as the system implanted in his mind. Lu Wangshu felt that this young man was simply his nemesis. From the beginning of the trial to now, every performance could subvert his cognition. Now he wanted to win back a game from his own expertise, but he was hit hard. Tired, Lu Wangshu sighed to the sky, and his mood was hard to understand. Perhaps this is the long spear, the back wave pushes the front wave, and the front wave dies on the beach. Perhaps this freak was born after tens of millions of years of lost time in Kunlun realm, gathering the power of heaven and earth. If this is true, then everything can be explained. Lu Wangshu comforted himself, adjusted his mental state, and smiled with relief. Young man, do you want to learn more about formations? I can give you some pointers. The mental power of the 100th level is already the upper limit of the heavenly formation master. If it reaches the 101st level, it is the threshold of the Taoist formation master. For Yi Junlin, a super freak who has never been seen in the past and present, Lu Wangshu really has a heart of love for talent and wants to teach formation knowledge in advance so that Yi Junlin can become a real heavenly formation master. You know, even in his time, heavenly formation masters were already very popular, and they were definitely the kind of big names that the major holy places and sects wanted to offer. Every immortal king who meets him must treat him with courtesy and have the intention of making friends with him. Even the immortal emperor must be treated as a guest of honor and dare not neglect him. Because if a heavenly array master can break through to the level of a Tao array master by chance one day, his personal role and potential can be comparable to hundreds of immortal emperors. And the peak level Tao array master, to exaggerate, is even inferior to ordinary immortal emperors. This is the value of the heavenly array master. Just when Lu Wangshu was full of blood and ready to cultivate a formation genius to help Kunlun realm overcome difficulties, Yi Junlin's voice suddenly came from the front without hesitation. Thank you, I refuse. Even though the tone was very polite, it could not hide the resistance. Lu Wangshu, what's going on? I am the great formation master, willing to teach you formation knowledge and teach you how to improve formation skills, but you refused directly. What a precious opportunity. If it were in the past, when Lu Wangshu announced that he wanted to recruit disciples, the formation masters of the entire Kunlun world would be excited and crazy about it. Even every time he gave a lecture and selflessly taught a move or two, many formation masters below would cry and wish they could kowtow to him on the spot. When it came to you, you just refused. Are you really not giving him any face at all? It's too much. At this time, Yi Junlin was resisting Lu Wangshu's desire to teach him the formation skills from head to toe. The reason was simple, because he had no talent for formations at all. All his skills and levels were obtained by the experience package signed in by the system, which was equivalent to mastering them instantly out of thin air. There was no independent level of continuous exploration and improvement. Moreover, with the blessing of the experience package, why should he work hard to learn? Isn't this asking for trouble? Therefore, in response to Lu Wangshu's enthusiasm, Yi Junlin politely and firmly rejected this good intention. It is impossible to learn, it is impossible to learn forever. With the experience packs issued by the system, newbies can become masters. What else do you need to learn? Lu Wangshu frowned. Junior, do you know what you are talking about? This is a great opportunity for you, you should cherish it. Yi Junlin touched his nose and said perfunctorily, oh. I promise that if you stay in this spiritual space for a while, I can make your formation level surpass that of a ground formation master and reach the level of a sky formation master. Oh, do you know what a sky formation master is? It is also a popular existence in the fairy world. Oh, don't be like this, give me a chance, let me teach you, please. Oh, your mother's head. Lu Wangshu couldn't bear it anymore. He was originally a fairy, but now he became like a grumpy old man. He lost control of his emotions and swore at Yi Junlin on the spot. Yi Junlin, is it that serious? If you don't want to learn, then don't want to learn. Why do you have to force him? Senior Lu, I understand what you mean, but you don't have to be so concerned about me. After all, My spiritual power talent is very poor, only a mere 100th level, so. Yi Junlin sighed with guilt. Boom! Lu Wangshu was struck by lightning, and he was so angry that he covered his chest, stepped back a few steps, tremblingly stretched out his fingers, and squeezed out a few words with trembling lips. You fucking. Listen, is this human language? If your talent is very poor, then what am I? Worse than garbage. Lu Wangshu felt that he couldn't keep this person here, otherwise he couldn't imagine what kind of blow he would suffer. Hey, anyway, your luck is against the sky, and your destiny is determined in the dark. Lu Wangshu waved his hand tiredly. Now I will send you out and announce the final winner of the trial. From now on, Yunxian Island is yours, treat everything on the island well. Thank you. Yi Junlin bowed his hands. After all, this senior was a good person. He was willing to teach him even though he didn't have much talent. He deserved to be treated with courtesy. The outside world was crowded with people. Looking around, there were densely packed cultivators pointing and talking at the island floating in the sky. The inheritance of the immortal island attracted worldwide attention. Creatures of different races were full of expectations and curiosity, wanting to see who would win the trial this time. As the third level came to an end, the 99 eliminated trialists were also teleported out by a force. Some of them shook their heads and sighed, some were relieved, some beat their chests and stamped their feet, and some looked up to the sky and sighed. In short, they all had different performances. Ah, I really don't have a place. I've been a supporting role from beginning to end. Fellow Taoist, why should you belittle yourself? After all, we have made it to the third level. It's worth bragging about it when we go back. Haha, that makes sense. The most important thing is to participate. By the way, what happened in the end? After all, before I died, I saw Muscle Loli and Senior Shui jointly clearing the field. Damn, speaking of this, I want to know who the Muscle Loli is. I've never seen such a weird person in my life. Actually, she's pretty good. The most hateful one is the bald man named Woody How Lonely. That mean expression makes me angry when I think about it now. Hey, you're right, if I knew the real identity of this guy, I would definitely teach him a lesson. The discussion was particularly exciting, and the topic revolved around the muscular Loli and the bald man, because these were the two characters that attracted the most hatred. Hey, look, that's Senior Shui, why is he out too? A young man saw the familiar figure in white and widened his eyes in surprise. Oh my god, doesn't this mean that he doesn't have a place this time? Who is so powerful that he can eliminate Senior Shui? Could it be the muscular Loli? Others used their imaginations to guess. Among them, a cold man in a white dress that was whiter than snow stood with a sword, looking at the fairy island wrapped in fairy light, his eyes revealing reluctance. Alas, this farewell, I'm afraid it will be difficult to meet in this life. Shui Wuan sighed. From beginning to end, he didn't know the other party's true identity. This was the most special girl he had met so far. It's a pity that they were not destined to be together. Shui Wuan felt bitter. After all, his true identity in the third round was known to everyone. If that strange woman really wanted to make friends, she would definitely come to him on her own initiative. But now, he has waited for a long time, but he still hasn't waited. He can only say that those who understand will understand. No wonder the master said that women's hearts are as deep as the sea. Could it be that in the projection world, fighting side by side with each other, everything they experienced is not counted? The more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable Shui Wuan felt. He has always been obsessed with kendo, and he is crazy about kendo in this life. Even when he went out to travel, there were all kinds of opposite sex who admired him and wanted to develop relationships with him, but Shui Wuan ignored them and treated them as if they were red-faced skeletons. Because Shui Wuan firmly believed that women would only affect the speed of his sword drawing. But now, this unexpected encounter made Shui Wuan's heart waver. The muscular Loli with a carefree personality and true and unpretentiousness made him feel a feeling he had never had before for the opposite sex. As the saying goes, a gentleman loves a beautiful lady. There is nothing more heart-pounding than this. In the eyes of ordinary people, the image of muscular Loli is disgusting, and there is a sense of disobedience that challenges traditional aesthetics, but in the eyes of Shui Wuan, under this masculine appearance, there is an alternative cute contrast. It is very cute. There is a feeling of wanting to hold her in my arms and take good care of her. Since you don't want to meet me, I won't have too much entanglement. I hope that when I point my sword to the avenue in the future, you can witness all this with your own eyes. Shui Wuan was emotionally lost and murmured with a melancholy face. The scene of snowflakes dancing around him directly brought this emotion to the maximum. I don't know why, seeing Senior Shui like this, I feel so distressed, woo woo. A female cultivator's eyes turned red and she shed 2 lines of tears. Yes, I just feel like crying, it's so strange. The female companion next to him took out a handkerchief, wiped her tears, and choked. Woo woo, as an immortal, Shui Wuan released a sentimental emotion that affected everyone, especially the female monks, who cried loudly when they saw this lonely figure shrouded in snowflakes. What's going on? Many male monks opened their eyes wide, feeling unbelievable. In the distance, Hong Chenny witnessed this scene, and nudged the man in the bamboo hat next to him with his elbow, saying in a playful tone, Mr. Li, it's great, even a sword immortal is fascinated by you. Why don't you go up and confess your identity? Let everyone open their eyes. Li Wuji's eyes twitched. Designing the image of a muscular loli was the stupidest thing he had ever done in his life. Who knew that there were men who liked such a heavy-tasting character? Hearing Hong Chenny's teasing words, Li Wuji was furious. He tightly grasped the handle of the knife with his big hand and gritted his teeth and said angrily, I warn you, don't talk nonsense, otherwise I will die with you even if I risk my life. If the other party dares to speak out, Li Wuji promises to draw his sword and kill him, and activate the crazy bloodline to fight to the death. This stain must be covered up forever. Forever. $window. _Taboola equals window. _Taboola. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Taboola below article feed. Placement. Below article feed. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 187. C-187 The owner of Yunxian Island, Yi Junlin. Seeing the stern warning from the man in the hat, Hong Chiba also knew the seriousness of the matter. If he really leaked the news, the other party would definitely go crazy on the spot. Who are you threatening? Do you really think you can beat me? Hong Chenny squinted, unwilling to be outdone. Just when Li Wuji's eyes showed a hint of anger, and he held the handle of the knife with his big hand and pulled out half of the long knife, Hong Chenny turned his head away again and wrote in an understated tone, but for the sake of master, I can all help you keep this secret, and be careful with your words in the future. Seeing this, Li Wuji knew what the other party meant. He pulled out half of the long knife and inserted it back again. He stared at the beautiful side face and made a heavy nasal sound, humph. Both of them knew it well and gave each other a way out. At this time, in the crowd, a mysterious figure in a black robe and hood stood. Under the brim of the hat, his handsome face was distorted, his eyes were frighteningly red, like a wild beast, and he kept muttering. No more, the fairy fate is gone. When Chen Xiao thought that the victory that originally belonged to him had been taken away so easily, his whole person suddenly fell into great pain and loss, which was completely separated from the high-spirited and complacent look in front of him. Why, I have obviously gained the upper hand and gained the power of the dragon. I should have been invincible, but a guy with a dragon-slaying knife just happened to appear. Recalling the bald man with a mean expression, holding a dragon-slaying knife and cutting himself into pieces, Chen Xiao felt so hateful that his back molars almost shattered, his fists clenched, and every muscle in his body was shaking. Push hard. He hates it. Why didn't the owner of the hateful immortal island choose him directly? I also hate myself for why I have to humiliate myself. I hate that guy who called Woody so lonely even more, for robbing him of the immortal fate that should have belonged to him. That shameless bitch, I'm going to kill him. I swear I'm going to kill him. Chen Xiao's eyes ignited with hatred and anger, and he roared with splitting eyes. Holy Sun, since the trial failed, let's leave here quickly. Mr. Lu's figure flashed over, reaching out to hold Chen Xiao and leaving. Get out. Chen Xiao, who was furious, shook off Mr. Lu's hand with a very bad attitude. You, Mr. Lu's face turned pale. After all, he was the supreme elder of the Yuha sect, but he was actually spoken to so rudely by a junior. However, faced with Chen Xiao's rudeness, Mr. Lu had no choice but to swallow his anger. After all, the other party was a person that even the fifth ancestor valued, and he could no longer afford to offend him. Lu Laoqiang suppressed his anger and forced a slightly stiff smile on his old face. Holy Sun, why bother? I can only say that you have no connection with this inheritance. I am worried that if you stay here any longer, things will change. HMPH, I don't care. I have to stand here today to see with my own eyes who the guy who eliminated me is. Chen Xiao gritted his teeth and said angrily. Hearing this, Mr. Lu's smile disappeared in an instant. He turned around and threw away his sleeves, asking for trouble, and secretly cursed. With your kind of character, you can only inherit the immortal island. You are a ghost. Rumble. At this moment, the immortal island erupted into a golden pillar of light that shot into the sky, and the entire vast sky was reflected in a golden light. The auspicious aura spread for 90,000 miles, and the fairy sound lingered endlessly. The momentum is huge and the scene is majestic, as if it is to tell the common people, let all living beings be witnesses. "Oh my God, look!" exclaimed from the crowd. "Is this the inheritance ceremony of immortal island?" A powerful person said in shock. "I just want to know who will be the final winner." Countless monks looked forward to it with bright eyes. "Damn it, anyone can do it, but you can't be the guy who blew up my big eagle." Li Wuji said angrily. He was still worried about his big eagle being blown up. After all, in the projection world, Li Wuji was proud of having such a big eagle, but in the end he was viciously beaten to death. Therefore, Li Wuji always held a grudge and hoped that the successor of Immortal Island would be well. Except for that bastard who blew up his eagle. Hong Chenny narrowed her eyes slightly, and there was a flash of light in her eyes. She vaguely felt that the guy named Yi would win. I can't imagine that if he really inherited the immortal island, wouldn't it be a long time before I can stand up and take charge? Hong Chenny began to think wildly. At this time, a mellow and majestic voice sounded from immortal island, echoing between heaven and earth. Now, the official transfer of control of immortal island begins. As soon as he finished speaking, immortal island was shaking violently, and countless bright lights bloomed, as if they were born from the great sun, exuding an incomparable sacred aura. Under the gaze of everyone, a familiar figure slowly rose with the light ball, as if enveloped in a golden ball of light. His silver hair was flowing like a waterfall, and his face was plump and handsome. He exuded some kind of ancient aura, which was integrated with the aura of the fallen immortal island. "That's Senior Yi." After seeing the figure clearly, the audience immediately burst into exclamations. "Great, it's Senior Yi who has obtained the inheritance." The Wangzhou monks were very happy and danced excitedly. No, seeing that the bald man was Yi Junlin, Chen Xiao broke his guard on the spot, clutching his almost suffocated chest, his throat gurgling, and then he opened his mouth and spurted out a large mouthful of blood, making his whole body tremble with anger. This riding on the horse is even more uncomfortable than killing him. The muscles in Chen Xiao's face were twitching, and his heart was in pain like a knife. "Why is it you?" Chen Xiao would rather have this fairy fate taken away by others present than see Yi Junlin succeed. Because this is his father-killing enemy. Now, the other party stepped on his head again and obtained this great destiny. When he recalled his performance in begging for mercy in the projection world, Chen Xiao felt so ashamed that his dignity was trampled to pieces and his chest was clogged. "It's so uncomfortable." "Ah!" Chen Xiao raised his head and shouted, as if he wanted to vent his frustration and resentment. Looking at the silver-haired young man shrouded in the light ball, like an immortal emperor flying in the sky, old Lu's pupils shrank suddenly, with a look of disbelief on his face, and he murmured, "How could it be him? This is such good luck." Suddenly, Mr. Lu thought of something and looked to the other side as if feeling something. Then he looked back and sneered from the corner of his mouth, "Ha, Yi Junlin, enjoy the most glorious moment of your life, because soon you will be gone from this world." Erased. Not long after, the fairy light in the sky gradually dissipated, and the inheritance ceremony of Immortal Death Island ended. Yi Junlin stood above the Immortal Island, with his hair fluttering wildly, his eyes shining brightly, and his aura as ethereal as a celestial being. This inheritance ceremony has made the cards quite big. Not bad, I like it. As he spoke, Yi Junlin was immersed in his mind and could clearly feel that he had established some kind of connection with this floating island. However, regarding the functions of Immortal Island, we still need to slowly explore later. After all, it is a place where a top boss lived. It must have many uses and cannot be easily concluded. Senior Yi, congratulations. Everyone congratulated, feeling very envious in their hearts. Haha, it's Master who has obtained the inheritance. Li Wuji was overjoyed and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he was not the bastard who blew him away. It's really him. Hong Chenny bit her lower lip, feeling sour. God, apart from being lazy about eating and lying around all day long, what is there about this guy that deserves your preference so much? And I work so hard, but you turn a blind eye. Isn't it said that God rewards hard work? Tired, Yi Junlin showed a faint smile. Although he didn't care about the inheritance of Immortal Island, he just regarded the 3 rounds of levels as clearing the game. But now that he has obtained this inheritance, in the face of everyone's congratulations, he still has to say what should be said. Same joy, Yi Junlin said solemnly, looking at the dense crowd in Wuyang. Senior Yi, you received the blessing of immortality in the first 2 rounds, and you came out on top in the last round. I am really envious of you. Shui Wuan sighed sincerely. Compared with the opponent's current potential, he is nothing at all. Even if he becomes an immortal by luck, he will still be able to catch up to the latecomers. But if you think about it carefully, this person does have this ability. After all, with a simple cursive character, he can have a sudden enlightenment and become an immortal. This alone is unmatched by anyone. Hear this. Yi Junlin looked the man in white up and down, and then said seriously, you are not bad, at least for these 3 rounds you are here. The corner of Shui Wuan's mouth twitched, feeling that this sentence was a bit forced and had an inexplicable meaning of hurting others. Senior Yi, if you don't know how to praise, don't praise me forcefully. For this special occasion, Shui Wuan forced out a stiff smile, well, you're right. While everyone was congratulating Yi Junlin on his inheritance, Lu Wangshu, standing in the courtyard deep in the mountains, gently stroked his beard and sighed. Junior, my mission has been completed. I hope you and I will meet again. I'll say goodbye. After saying this, his figure turned into nothingness and completely disappeared into the immortal island. As a spiritual thought left by the original island owner, after the new successor is successfully selected, it will naturally disappear according to the process. This is his mission and his task. Fairyland, a supreme palace standing on a towering fairy mountain. There was a middle-aged Taoist priest with an immortal style, wearing a navy blue Taoist robe and a Taoist bun on his head. He looked at the holographic 3-dimensional image that appeared on the compass, the densely packed red dots that were approaching, and his expression was a bit ugly. Beside him, there were several figures with powerful auras standing, all of whom were immortal emperor-level experts with high prestige in the immortal world. At this time, they all looked solemnly at the scene that appeared on the compass. Those densely packed red dots represent extraterritorial coalition forces. Hey, the Starry Sky defense line has been lost one after another, and the enemy troops are constantly approaching the fairy world. If this continues, can this huge fairy world be preserved intact? A young immortal emperor sighed. Just as Lu Wangshu was about to say something, he suddenly felt so blessed that his whole body was stuck in place like a log, and his mind was receiving feedback from the spirit body. After a few seconds, Lu Wangshu's eyes returned to clarity, and then he raised his head and laughed loudly regardless of his appearance, and clapped his hands, ha ha ha, good. Very good. Young immortal emperor. Several other immortal emperors looked at each other. Was this because they were under too much pressure and were they crazy? Window. _Taboola equals window. _Taboola. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Taboola below article feed. Placement. Below article feed. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 188. C-188 The Stunned Immortal Emperors. Mrs. Lu, why don't you go back and have a rest? The young immortal emperor looked strange. Yes, don't be overwhelmed. After all, you are the only formation master in our immortal world. Seeing Lu Wangshu's sudden and bizarre reaction, everyone advised him one after another. Well, Lu Wangshu realized his gaffe and quickly returned to his serious appearance. He pretended to cough a few times and said, sorry, I was so happy just now. Let's continue to discuss the current countermeasures. Wait, Mrs. Lu, what can make you so happy now? Saying it will make us happy. The young immortal emperor asked curiously. Yes, it must be a great thing to have Mrs. Lu react like this. Others also became interested. Ever since the allied forces from outside the territory launched an attack, the situation in the immortal realm has become increasingly critical. The expression on the face of this formation master has never been so easy. What is happening now? So happy to be so happy. Lu Wangshu leaned back habitually, and raised the corners of his mouth with pride. Everyone, the immortal island inheritance that I left in the Kunlun realm was acquired just now. Ouch! Everyone immediately exclaimed in disbelief, their expressions even more surprised than when the enemy invaded the fairy world. There is no other reason. Everyone knows that this person's inheritance is the most difficult existence among all the immortal emperors. When they built the fairy world and prepared to live there permanently, they expected that the Kunlun world would one day recover, so they agreed to leave their own inheritances. When the recovery stage comes, they will be born one after another, so that future generations of talented people can obtain it, so as to strengthen the Kunlun world, overall strength. As for those who knew Lu Wangshu well, they knew that this man usually had the most fantastic ideas. After all, it was he who proposed the plan to create a fairyland. He even showed off a trick that year, forcibly changing the direction of the River of Death, and directly defeat the powerful Juyu Alliance army. It can be seen that his inheritance is the most difficult to inherit, and the standard of trial is definitely the highest. Therefore, when faced with the 3 rounds of levels carefully prepared by Lu Wangshu, everyone half-joked that they would observe a moment of silence in advance for future generations who would fall into the trap. Unexpectedly, not long after the Kunlun world recovered, the inheritance left behind was acquired by someone. Miracle, a huge miracle. The young immortal emperor rubbed his chin and joked, "Hey, you don't have to guess, that little guy must have suffered a lot." The others nodded in agreement. To be able to survive from these 3 rounds of weird levels to the end, only those who have experienced how much suffering they have gone through will know. To be honest, although the levels formulated by Taishang Lu are very unusual, they can indeed screen out inheritors with great perseverance and wisdom. Yes, I think so too. Hey, you are all wrong. Lu Wangshu smiled bitterly. Just now, he accepted all the information from that spiritual thought, as if he was personally witnessing Yi Junline's experience of breaking through the barrier from beginning to end, as well as the process of face-to-face communication. As a result, he still hasn't calmed down yet. Boy, this is a real freak. Let him directly gain knowledge. Oh, how do you say this? The young immortal emperor raised his eyebrows. This person's luck is unbelievable. It's the best I've ever seen in my life. He easily passed through the 3 rounds of levels I set, and his mental talent. Lu Wangshu's expression became complicated when he said this. Slowly uttered a few words, better than me. As soon as these words came out, the whole place was silent and quiet. The young immortal emperor was stunned for a moment, then laughed so hard that tears came out of his eyes. Several other immortal emperors also laughed. Some held their stomachs, and some put their arms around each other. The air was suddenly filled with a happy atmosphere. Mrs. Lu, you are the one who is willing to make us laugh in such a serious occasion. You are worthy of it. A creature with a dragon head gave a thumbs up. Hey, I haven't laughed so happily for a long time. Thank you, Mrs. Lu. We appreciate your kindness. Another old man with a white beard leaned on a cane and wiped the tears of laughter from the corners of his eyes. Lu Wangshu shook his head and sighed. Unfortunately, this is true, I am not kidding. The laughter stopped abruptly. Everyone looked at each other in shock. This is actually true. Is your spiritual talent stronger than yours? By how much? I guess it's just a little bit. The young immortal emperor asked nervously. Hey, he's so much better, even I feel inferior. Lu Wangshu said bitterly. Hiss. Upon hearing this answer, the young immortal emperor took a deep breath. This man's spiritual talent was a legend of being undefeated back then, but it was actually broken by the younger generations of later generations. I remember when you were not an immortal, it was said that your spiritual power was at level 30. Since that junior is stronger than you, was it level 35? Or 40? Someone frowned. Ahem. Lu Wangshu stretched out a finger and said with a complicated expression, 100 levels. Everyone, 100 levels. They are comparable to the immortal king. You don't have to doubt that his realm is only the realm of transcending tribulation, but the spiritual power contained in his sea of consciousness, my spirit body can detect 100 levels. Lu Wangshu said with a bitter smile. Everyone just felt their mouths were dry and it felt like they were listening to a book from heaven. If the formation master hadn't personally admitted it, and if someone else had said this, they would have been furious, denounced him as a monster and deceived the public, and slapped him to death. It can be saved. The Kunlun world can be saved. That junior's spiritual talent is so terrifying. If he had the formation skills you taught him, he would be at the level of a heavenly formation master at the beginning. With your temperament, you will definitely give him everything you have at such a critical moment. Teach it. The young immortal emperor said excitedly, his eyes shining brightly. That makes sense. Everyone clapped their hands and smiled, feeling as if they were taking a breath of spring breeze. Lu Wangshu, the problem is, I didn't teach anything. Several unkind eyes were focused on him for an instant, with the intention of turning against him and taking action. Well, please listen to my explanation. The reason why I didn't teach him anything was because he rejected me. Lu Wangshu's voice became smaller and smaller as he spoke, feeling full of grievances in his heart. Are you just telling him that you are the most powerful formation master in the Kunlun world? The only formation master? The young immortal emperor said in surprise. I swear, I revealed my identity, but his attitude was very firm. In the end, I wanted to kneel down and beg him, but he just didn't appreciate it. Lu Wangshu spread his hands and said innocently. And this matter? The immortal emperor-level powerhouses present looked stunned. A dignified formation master took the initiative to teach formation skills, but was sternly rejected by the other party. If this spread within the fairy world, it would definitely cause a huge sensation. This is like God chasing you to feed you, but you impatiently knock away the bowls and chopsticks, giving God a few big mouths, and yelling at the same time, "Get out of here." Hey, the immortal island belongs to him anyway, so he can do whatever he wants. With his incredible luck, Jiren will have his own destiny, so there is no need to worry about it. Lu Wangshu looked tired, holding his hands. Face said, "It's a pity that the Ascension Passage in the Kunlun realm has been destroyed by the enemy recently. Before it is repaired, we in the immortal realm cannot come. Otherwise, I will definitely run to see what kind of guy he is." "Even you, Mrs. Lu, I feel helpless," the young immortal emperor said with great interest. "Speaking of this, the Ascension Channel for the Kunlun realm has been destroyed. It is obvious that the enemy wants to cut off the support of the immortal realm to the Kunlun realm and make it isolated and helpless so as to better carry out the infiltration plan." The creature in the dragon's head was solemn. Road. "Yeah, I was still worried before, but now," Lu Wangshu showed a bright smile, "let them go." Window. _Tabula equals window. _Tabula. Push mode, thumbs feed 01, container, tabula below article thumbnail, 300 times 250 feet, placement, below article thumbnail -300 times 250 feet, target _type, mix. Chapter 189. C-189 The crisis is coming. Kunlun realm. Eastern region, barren state. A huge floating island suspended in the sky, constantly filled with dense immortal energy, contains world-famous cultivation resources. If it were normal times, it would definitely cause countless monks to snatch it madly, but now, they can only watch helplessly. Looking at it, I felt extremely envious. You must know that the ownership of this immortal island already belongs to the silver-haired young man alone. If someone without eyesight tries to get involved, they are going against him, and the consequences can be imagined. Among them, some people with ulterior motives racked their brains and tried to shout a few slogans, which meant opening the immortal island to benefit the people, but when the words came to their lips, they swallowed them down. There is no other reason, try it and it will pass away. Not to mention that he is a terrifying existence known as the God of Death, and he also carries a magic weapon that is suspected to be an immortal weapon. Even big bosses like Sword Immortal Shui Wuan treated him with respect. Who dared to make a mistake at this juncture? Therefore, in the face of the huge temptation in front of them, even though most of the monks present had their own thoughts and had a hint of covetousness in their eyes, they all had smiles on their faces and concealed it well. The scene was fun and the atmosphere was surprisingly harmonious. Hong Chenny folded her arms, and with a pair of beautiful red and phoenix eyes, slowly scanned the surrounding crowd, taking in the expressions of many people, and a disdainful sneer came from the corner of her mouth. Hee. As a demonic monk, he is very familiar with this. "Why are you laughing?" Li Wuji asked. "I am laughing at hypocritical humanity." Hong Chenny narrowed her eyes slightly, with a bit of piercing light shining in her eyes. She recalled in her mind her turbulent career in the Devil's Path when she was young. Her tone was half cold and half mocking. "When you are weak, you will find that the world is full of malice, and everyone can come and step on you. But when you are extremely strong, you will find that life is full of kindness, and everyone will greet you with a smile. Feel free to offend you." Just like now, many monks from the outside world are obviously eager to obtain precious cultivation resources from the immortal island. However, due to Master's terrifying strength, they have no choice but to hide their malice in their hearts and deliberately pretend to be evil. Congratulations warmly. Tisk, what we call human nature is actually just bestiality in disguise. Hear the words. Looking at the extremely dazzling silver-haired young man being held by the stars, and then glancing around at the monks from all sides who came to congratulate him, Li Wuji fell into silence for a while. In this harmonious surface atmosphere, I don't know how many people are actually greedy and want to get their hands on the secrets inside the immortal island. As his thoughts turned, Li Wuji said with a serious face, "I agree with your views on human nature, but who is born, not to get better and better? What's more, we are practitioners, and we are more eager to become stronger. Facing the fate of immortality, it is normal to be tempted and greedy, but it is also normal for them not to dare to snatch it due to the Master's strength. This is called seeking good fortune and avoiding disaster, and it is human nature." Quote. Hong Chenny snorted coldly, "How can you explain that the law of the jungle and the strong have evil hearts?" Li Wuji's tone paused and he said in a deep voice, "When I embarked on the road of cultivation, I traveled to many dojo in the eastern region and saw all kinds of things. I once saw the strong bullying the weak and killing them wantonly. Innocent people, but I have also seen weak people using the excuse that I am weak and trying to take advantage of the situation to force the strong to give benefits to them, and even suppress their own kind. Quote, human nature is complex and changeable, but human nature also has its shining points. Sometimes the strong may not only bully the weak. Maybe when he becomes stronger, he is willing to shine light into dark corners and help others. The weak bring warmth, and the weak will be grateful after receiving favors. When they become stronger in the future, they will also follow the example of their predecessors and do it smoothly. Quote, stop, stop, stop. Hong Chenny waved her hands impatiently. I've long been tired of hearing these big principles like you said. Anyway, I became stronger not to protect the weak, but to control my own destiny. Live as you please, and kill whoever you find unhappy. So, as he spoke, Li Wuge turned around suddenly, looked directly into Hong Chenny's eyes seriously, and said in an almost singing tone, we are different. Hong Chenny, no, you just speak properly, why do you have to have this incomprehensible tone? Ahem, I learned this from my master. Li Wuji pretended to cough a few times, proudly puffing up his chest and raising his head. Learn and apply it flexibly, I am indeed a smart person. Seeing this, Hong Chenny twitched the corner of her mouth, feeling that she was no longer able to complain in her heart. It is really redundant to discuss human nature with you. Suddenly, Hong Chenny noticed something, and her expression suddenly changed. No, there's a situation. Rumble, just when the atmosphere was harmonious, a torn space crack appeared, emitting a strange green light. Well, a middle-aged man wearing a gorgeous royal robe swept out of the crack in the space and rushed towards Yi Junlin in front of everyone's shocked eyes. His turquoise hair was formed into countless braids, fluttering in the wind, and there were prismatic scales on his forehead that shone with light. His face was distorted due to excessive excitement, and he roared, Yi Junlin, I am the strongest king of Mingyuan, and I am here today. Take your life, die. It turned out that King Dangyu had been lurking in the space for a long time, waiting for the right time to take action. Now that he saw Yi Junlin obtain the immortal fate and be proud of the spring breeze, the murderous intention in his heart could no longer be suppressed, and he would take action to kill this person to avoid future troubles. The sudden scene left the monks present stunned and deeply shocked and angry. The legendary ruler of the abyss actually appeared, and he dared to openly attack Senior Yi. How arrogant and arrogant this is. Aren't you afraid of being attacked by a group and dying without a burial place? You evil beast, you are so brave. How dare you make trouble in the presence of me? Shui Wuan was completely angry. The opponent, who was only in the tribulation realm, dared to do something under his nose. After all, he was a genuine swordsman, so he had no deterrence. Boom! Suddenly, Shui Wuan's whole body burst out with the vast aura of a true immortal, and the surging immortal power in his body poured into the long sword in his hand. The sword body emitted a magnificent light, stretching across the sky like the sun. Die to me! A flash of snow-white sword light spread like a wave, and the sword energy billowed across the sky, making a thunderous rumble. The scene was astonishing. Haha, if a swordsman like Senior Shui takes action, that king of the underworld is doomed. I don't know why it is so angry that it would attack on such a special occasion. Each of us can drown it with just a spit of spit. It seems that Ming Yuan is at the end of his rope. Even the king personally went out to launch a suicide attack. Tisk tisk. Everyone was talking in a sarcastic tone, feeling extremely ridiculous about King Dangyu's deceptive approach of coming to die. Just then, King Dangyu took out a pitch-black ancient lamp without panic. The ancient lamp danced with dark purple flames, which contained great terror. It doesn't matter that you are a swordsman. I have already prepared for you. Let's go. Injecting power, the seal of the ancient lamp was unlocked, and the dark purple flames suddenly surged and expanded, turning into 9 fierce and powerful demonic dragons, all roaring away. Roar! The 9 demonic dragons twisted their bodies and circled crazily, using the terrifying purple flames burning all over their bodies to wipe out the vast wave of sword energy. Feeling this immortal aura that was far stronger than him, Shui Wuan's expression instantly changed, and he said in disbelief, how is this possible? This is the supreme underworld weapon given to me by the envoy. Since you want to stop me, you must die first. Seeing the power of the ancient lamp, King Dangyu suddenly burst into confidence and said with a ferocious smile. Oh my god, even Senior Shui, looking at the fighting in the sky above their heads, the monks from all over the world were stunned. They felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar, and their whole bodies were covered with cold. No wonder this ruler from the underworld dares to come out and cause trouble at this juncture. It turns out that he is confident because of the magic weapon that can rival the immortals. As long as I'm here, you can't even think of succeeding. Shui Wuan gritted her teeth, dressed in white and made a hunting sound. The long sword in her hand burst out with a shocking brilliance and performed a powerful sword move. In an instant, the icy sword intent turned into dancing snowflakes. Each snowflake contained infinite sword intent. When it fell on the ground, it could freeze for thousands of miles and tear apart mountains and rivers. It was terrifyingly powerful. Roar! The attack of the 9 demon dragons was blocked, and the extremely cold frost spread along their bodies, as if they would freeze the purple flames on them forever. Huh! King Dangyu's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that this underworld weapon couldn't defeat this person? But the good thing is that it thinks too much. The 9 demonic dragons circled the sky with supreme power, bursting out with terrifying dark purple flames, melting the frost sword intent that originally enveloped their bodies, and emitting a sizzling white gas. Then, the 9 demonic dragons rushed towards Shui Wuan with overwhelming power. Compared with their huge bodies, Shui Wuan was as small as an ant. Feeling the overwhelming scorching air waves in front of him, Shui Wuan's face turned ugly, and the crisis of death filled his heart. Could it be that he was about to perish not long after he became an immortal? Just when life and death were at stake, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in my ears. Rang rang, you are here to find me. Huh! A young figure with flowing silver hair passed by him and rushed towards the 9 magic dragons without hesitation. Senior Yi. Shui Wuan was stunned at first and shouted in shock. In his eyes, the back of Yi Junlin, who was rushing towards the 9 demonic dragons alone, looked extremely tragic, full of a sense of déjà vu as he died generously. After all, even he was no match for 9 demonic dragons. With the opponent's level of cultivation in the Tribulation Realm, he would surely be wiped out in a single encounter. Chapter 190, C-190. Thank you for the immortal gift package. Master. Li Wuji was shocked. Why are you rushing to die these days? Why? Hong Chenny murmured in shock. Yi Junlin, I didn't expect you to come to the door yourself. If I kill you and then kill others, I will go on a killing spree today. King Dangyu shouted with excitement. The underworld weapon is a one-time use, and the powerful power it releases will weaken over time and eventually dissipate. Therefore, it must seize the opportunity to solve the target. Moreover, this gathering of heroes includes a newly promoted sword immortal. If things go well, it will definitely severely damage the morale of the human race in the eastern region. Best of both worlds. Mr. Liu, have you seen it? The man named Yi actually took the initiative to die. Chen Xiao was startled at first, and then his whole body trembled with excitement. He tried hard to open his eyes wide, as if he was eager to see the perfect moment when the figure was torn apart by the 9 magic dragons. Mr. Liu was overjoyed. He had already received the news of the assassination, but he did not expect that things would go so smoothly. As long as this person is killed, Immortal Island will be ownerless, and we can enter the island to plunder resources openly. At this time, under countless shocked eyes, Yi Junlin took the initiative to rush towards the 9 flaming dragons. His lonely back looked so tragic and brave to everyone. No, the monk from Guangzhou burst into tears and cried out in grief as his emotions broke down. They couldn't accept that their most admired idol was killed like this. It's a pity that it has become a fact now. After all, even a swordsman like Shui Wuan can't defeat that underworld weapon. How can a person in the Tribulation Realm stop such an offensive? Rumble. He saw 9 demonic dragons carrying dark purple angry flames, all rushing towards him. Not only was Yi Junlin unfazed, he had a confident smile on his lips. He spread his arms gracefully, as if to welcome the sacred baptism. Ding! It has been detected that the host is attacked by an enemy from the 5th level of the true immortal. Now it triggers the passive effect of becoming stronger when encountering a strong one, and gains the cultivation level of the 6th level of the true immortal. Close black lens bracket. In my mind, the system prompts sounded. The next second, an astonishing change took place inside Yi Junlin's body. All his magic power transformed into powerful immortal power. His aura was tens of thousands of times stronger than before. There was an earth-shaking terrifying power in his every move. This is immortal. Yi Junlin felt that this sudden powerful power was as difficult to adapt to as a poor person sitting on the throne of the richest man overnight. Too strong, ridiculously strong. No wonder so many monks are eager to achieve enlightenment and become immortals. They usually work in the tribulation realm of the eastern region, but they are like ants in front of the true immortals. At this moment, the 9 demonic dragons condensed from the dark purple flames were already close at hand. An ordinary immortal would have been frightened and hastily dealt with it, but Yi Junlin faced him straight like this without changing his expression. He, Tui, The sound of spitting sounded, and Yi Junlin coughed up the thick phlegm and spit it out. Crash, the 9 blazing demon dragons, as if poured by divine water, were extinguished without a trace in an instant. It's like it never appeared. Quiet, the whole place was dead silent. The heart-rending crying just now suddenly stopped. Countless people stared blankly, their heads still not turning around. In their field of vision, a dark purple dragon with 9 heads burning with raging flames attacked Senior Yi with the power of burning the world. As a result, Senior Yi coughed up thick phlegm and spit it out, and wiped it all out. Ah, this. As soon as Shui Wuan rushed forward with his sword in hand, he saw this bizarre scene. The sword in his hand stayed in the air, his expression full of disbelief. When he looked at the silver-haired young man again, he found that this man was filled with fairy light, and the true fairy aura on his body was far stronger than his own. Shui Wuan was so shocked that his eyes widened and he lost his voice. Senior Yi, it turns out you have become an immortal long ago. As soon as these words came out, the whole place boiled instantly. Could it be that the rumors are true? Senior Yi is an immortal who has lived for who knows how many thousands of years. He has been sleeping for the past few years. He only woke up in the past 2 years and traveled around the world in disguise. If this is the case, it can explain why his realm has been getting stronger and stronger since his debut, as if there is never a limit. It is unfathomable. It turns out that he has been in the realm of an immortal for a long time. No wonder Senior Yi's oral recitation of mantras can give us insights and breakthroughs. All the disciples he has accepted have made extraordinary achievements. Even just writing a word can inspire him to become the current swordsman. There are traces of everything, but we are all limited in our narrow understanding. In fact, people are already standing at the top, smiling at the wind and clouds, overlooking all living beings. When they learned that Yi Junlin was an immortal, everyone felt unbelievable, but they quickly convinced themselves to accept this reality. Damn it, Master is actually a real immortal. Li Wuji's eyes widened in shock, almost bursting, and his heart was beating like a drum, thumping in his chest. He has accumulated so much virtue in his previous life that he can worship an immortal as his teacher. No wonder the other party can come up with all kinds of incredible treasures, and is always calm when facing powerful enemies, with a kind of confidence and calmness that I am invincible and you are casual. The reason is very simple, just because everyone below the immortal is an ant. This guy is really... Hong Chenny was dumbfounded, her eyes filled with the powerful figure surrounded by fairy light. Thinking back to the previous experiences, there seemed to be traces, especially the time in Medicine King Valley. Under the rules set by the immortals, the other party was able to flexibly adjust his cultivation, which was not something that the Tribulation Realm could do. Only the existence of the same immortal can use their own power to interfere with the rules and come and go freely. How is this possible? King Dangyu was dumbfounded on the spot, his scalp numbed and he screamed, his whole body trembling with fear. Before he took action, he had anticipated various emergencies, but he never expected that he would fail in such an incredible way. Swish! Yi Junlin flashed in front of King Dangyu, staring at it with his bright eyes, and the terrifying aura of the 6th level of the true immortal permeated his body, giving the other party an extremely terrible sense of oppression. After reaching the true immortal, each realm is subdivided into 9 levels. The power released by the underworld weapon is equivalent to the level of the 5th level of the true immortal. Of course, it is only the most common one, but it also triggers the mechanism of Yi Junlin becoming stronger when facing a strong opponent, and he becomes a true immortal of the 6th level. With Yi Junlin's foundation and Taoist bones, after various transformations of the skills and the blessing of 2 immortal arts, his strength has reached an extremely terrifying level after his cultivation reached the 6th level of the true immortal. Therefore, facing the 9-headed angry flame dragon of the 5th level of the true immortal, Yi Junlin had no pressure at all to deal with it. You came all the way to give me experience, not bad. Yi Junlin nodded and expressed his appreciation for this behavior. Give experience. Dang Yuang was stunned. It was the first time he heard such a statement, but he didn't have time to think about it. He lowered his body and sweated profusely. His previous fierce appearance disappeared, replaced by a face full of fear of death. He said with a little cry. My lord, as long as you are satisfied. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article feed. Placement. Below article feed. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 191. C191 A wave of spiritual quotations. In front of a powerful immortal, King Dangyu knew that resistance was useless, so he had no choice but to grovel and try to get a chance to survive. Yi Junlin gently stretched out his hand, his meaning self-evident. Shangxian, please take it. King Dangyu handed over the ancient lantern with both hands in a humble posture. Is this thing called a ghost weapon? Yi Junlin played with the ancient lamp in his hand with great interest. There were traces of cracks on the surface of the ancient lamp. It was obvious that it had become obsolete. But this thing just exploded with the power of an immortal, as if a true immortal from the 5th level was shooting from a distance. Senior Yi, I didn't expect that Ming Yuan would have such a terrifying murder weapon. Shui Wuan stepped forward with his sword in hand, with lingering fear in his heart and a solemn expression on his face. After all, the 9 raging flame demonic dragons released by this object were unable to match even his full strength. If it hadn't been for Senior Yi's action, he would have died long ago. In fact, Shui Wuan was already extremely powerful, but because he was in the 1st level of a true immortal, he couldn't defeat this underworld weapon. You must know that the gap between each small level is very huge. It is not easy for Shui Wuan to be able to compete with the cultivation gap across the 4th heaven as a new sword immortal. If it were an ordinary 1st level true immortal, he would be blown away by 9 raging flame demon dragons in one encounter. It is difficult for a person who has transcended the calamity realm to exert the power of an immortal with the help of foreign objects, even if it is a legendary immortal weapon, right? Shui Wuan said thoughtfully. Really? Yi Junlin nodded, the person who made this thing has a lot of ideas. Although it is a one-time consumable, if it is popularized among the cultivation armies, the scale will be very terrifying. I remember you said that this underworld weapon was given to you by an envoy. I'm curious who the envoy you are talking about is. As he spoke, the ancient lamp in Yi Junlin's hand shattered and turned into fly ash and dissipated in the air. His eyes fell on King Dangyu with a sense of scrutiny. Boom! King Dangyu's head almost exploded, and his whole body seemed to be squeezed by an invisible force, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. It knows that this is the pressure of the immortal. Exalted immortal, I am so obsessed that I am only obeying the orders of the bad guys. If you are too noble, please let me go. After I go back, I will definitely draw a clear line with them and let all the creatures in the abyss to surrender. King Dangyu had a face filled with pain. Said. HMPH, Ming Yuan suddenly launched a large-scale attack on the eastern region. There must be an ulterior motive behind this. If you don't tell us, we will never let you go back alive. Shui Wuan, with a frosty face, scolded sternly. No, this immortal, you are overthinking. I, Ming Yuan, just want to expand and occupy more territory in the eastern region. King Dangyu lowered his head and gritted his teeth. Haha, you are here for the Stargate, right? Yi Junlin said meaningfully. Aha, hearing this, King Dangyu suddenly raised his head as if he was electrocuted, and said with an incredible expression, you actually know about our Stargate plan. Stargate, Shui Wuan raised his eyebrows. This was the first time he had heard of this thing. Yi Junlin sneered a few times, you Ming Yuan have been sending out troops in the past 2 years, and you are fighting in the north and south. On the surface, it is to expand the territory and obtain more abundant land resources. In the final analysis, it is to occupy the area with the Stargate and control it in advance. The number of Stargates. The Stargate connects all the heavens and all realms. Once the Stargate opens, the allied forces from outside the territory will be able to march straight in and capture the eastern territory of our Kunlun realm. And the envoy you are talking about must be from outside the territory. How about it? My analysis is quite different. Yi Junlin flicked his fingers and played with the taste. Shui Wuan was shocked. It turned out that there was such an earth-shattering conspiracy behind the Ming Yuan army's chaos in the eastern region. King Dangyu was silent for a few seconds, then simply stopped covering up, raised his eyes and looked directly into Yi Junlin's eyes, and said in a serious tone, I admit that you are very powerful in the eastern territory, but compared with the real strong people outside the territory, you are not worth mentioning at all. There are 3, 6 or 9 levels of so-called immortals. Instead of being killed by the coalition forces from outside the territory and dying unexpectedly, it is better to cooperate with them and find a good future in advance so that you can still be prosperous when the time comes. Exalted immortal, he who knows the current affairs is a hero. Hear the words. Shui Wuan was furious and pointed his sword at the middle-aged man. You evil beast, what are you talking nonsense to Senior Yi? Kunlun realm is our home, how can we be trampled on by foreign races from outside the territory? You want to surrender without fighting, you become a part of Kunlun realm. I'm just telling the truth. There are not many opportunities to change my life. King Dangyu resisted his fear and argued. Are you trying to instigate rebellion against me on behalf of the master behind you? It's interesting. Yi Junlin rubbed his chin, his eyes bright. Senior Yi, Shui Wuan's heart tightened, fearing that this big shot would take the enemy's side. Shangxian, if you have this intention, I can bring the message to you. King Dangyu forced out a flattering smile. Okay, then give me a message to your master. Ahem, Yi Junlin cleared his throat and said with a serious look on his face. The sword is not sharp, the horse is too thin, why do you want to fight me? Hearing such rhyming and provocative words, King Dangyu opened his mouth. It knows that negotiations have broken down. But the top priority is to get back alive. Keep the immortal's words in mind, I will go back and report truthfully. King Dangyu came back to his senses and turned around to leave. Let's go. Yi Junlin flicked his fingers with a playful expression, and in an instant, infinite immortal power burst out, hitting the opponent solidly. Ah! King Dangyu screamed, his whole body exploded into blood mist, and disappeared without a trace. Senior Yi, what are you doing? Shui Wuan had a weird look on his face. He asked someone to tell him something and then killed him. What kind of confusing and coquettish maneuver was this? What I killed just now was actually one of its clones. Yi Junlin waved his hand and explained. He didn't see it at first, but later he reached the 6th level of True Immortal. Only after careful observation did he see the clues. It has to be said that this old boy does have the means. This clone still has the ability to successfully overcome the tribulation. It must have been refined at a huge cost, and it can be summoned to help him at critical moments. As a result, it hit his hand. I see, Shui Wuan suddenly realized, I'm still wondering why the Lord of the Abyss is so audacious. It turns out that he was well prepared. After all, even if he fails, he will only lose one of his clones. Yi Junlin said, to be able to get into this position, you still have some IQ. Master, Li Wuji and Hong Chenyi stepped forward, carefully bowed their hands, but hesitated to speak. The former's eyes were full of awe, while the latter's expression was very complicated. Stop it, I know what you want to ask. I originally wanted to get along with you as a monk in the Tribulation realm, but what I got in return was the assassination of a gangster. That's right, I've shown my cards, my teacher has actually become an immortal. Yi Junlin put his hands behind his back and said without blushing, the reason why I didn't tell you earlier was because I was afraid that my noble status would make you feel emboldened and lose your morale to practice. I hope you can understand my good intentions as a teacher. The words just fell. Li Wuji said emotionally, Master. I understand everything. Don't worry, I promise that I will work harder to practice and become an immortal as soon as possible to catch up with the Master. It turns out that he has always been a disciple of the immortal. What a great honor. This background is definitely a ceiling in the eastern region. No wonder the Master wants to hide his identity, fearing that he will become a disciple. This old six, Hong Chenyi complained secretly. Seeing the other party take the initiative to reveal his identity, he felt that his previous attempt to betray him was even more stupid. Doing small tricks under the eyes of an immortal will cost your life. Even my own apprentice has no idea. I really admire Senior Yi's ideological realm. Seeing this, Shui Wuan sighed. How many years have passed, it turns out that there are immortals in our deserted state. In the crowd, Wu Yangfeng, the ancestor of the mountain-moving sect, raised his hands and shouted excitedly. This is definitely exciting news. Yi Shangxian. Yi Shangxian. Yi Shangxian. Countless monks from Guangzhou showed fanaticism, their emotions were completely ignited, and they shouted with all their strength. The shouts were like landslides and tsunamis, shattering clouds hundreds of thousands of miles away. The cohesion is extremely strong. Impossible, how can the guy named Yi be an immortal? Is he even worthy? Looking at the dazzling figure standing in the sky, Chen Xiao's mentality collapsed again. At this time, his spirit suffered a huge blow and he screamed like crazy. From the beginning to the end, he felt like he was being played. He felt that it was ridiculous, and he felt deeply powerless because of the huge gap between the two parties. Holy Sun, be careful what you say. Mr. Liu was almost scared out of his wits and quickly covered his mouth. Cold sweat was dripping from his forehead, and his face was full of fear. He was simply frightened when he thought about it. I should have thought a long time ago that a being who can carry an immortal weapon with him must be a true immortal. This person has shown his flaws a long time ago, it's just that we don't want to believe it. He never expected that Yi Junlin was actually a powerful immortal. If this news is brought back, the fifth patriarch in the sect will be alarmed. Ming Yuan's assassination plan failed. We must rush back to recover and take a long-term approach to this drastic change. As for Immortal Island, don't even think about it. After seeing Yi Junlin's terrifying strength, Mr. Lu's greed for Immortal Island disappeared. He picked up Chen Xiao in a panic, burned his mana and ran away desperately. But Chen Xiao didn't resist. His eyes were dull, as if he had lost his soul, and listlessly, he muttered, "I also want to become an immortal, I also want to become an immortal." Chapter 192. C-192. A bigger storm is brewing. Abyss. The environment is dark and the atmosphere is depressing and dull. In the palace of Mingyuan, a middle-aged man with green hair hanging down his shoulders and a forehead inlaid with prismatic scales sat calmly on the throne, his eyes closed, as if he was wandering in the world. Puff. Suddenly, the middle-aged man opened his eyes, vomiting blood with a painful expression on his face, and a look of fear in his eyes. This person is King Dangyu. At this time, King Dangyu was sitting in the palace, manipulating his clone to go to Wangzhou with the underworld weapon, lurking in secret and preparing to find an opportunity to kill. Of course, the biggest purpose is to get rid of Yi Junlin. I thought I could succeed in a cool way and make great achievements, but I ended up losing all my money. Not to mention how precious the underworld weapon given by the envoy is. As for its clone, which was refined with countless efforts, its cultivation and abilities are almost comparable to that of it, and it is also its greatest means of suppressing the kings of various races in the underworld. As a result, he was killed by Yi Junlin with a snap of his fingers, not even the scum was left. King Dangyu clutched his chest and sat slumped on the throne. Pain. It hurts so much. It hurts so much that I can't breathe. At this time, a young figure filled with purple energy appeared in the hall. The young man from the Nether tribe had a strange appearance, with two sharp horns protruding from his forehead. His pupils were dark purple like gems, mysterious and profound. At this time, he looked at King Dangyu, who was slumped on the throne with a heartbroken face. He frowned and asked coldly, "Road. What's going on? Did the mission fail? Little one, see the envoy." Seeing this person appear, King Dangyu didn't dare to stand up carelessly, and half knelt on the ground in fear. "What's going on? Tell me," Ming Yi said in a cold tone. King Dangyu gritted his teeth and said bitterly, "Report to the envoy, I really tried my best this time. The power of the underworld weapon is indeed very powerful. Even the newly promoted sword immortals of the human race cannot defeat it. But when I was about to succeed, unexpectedly it happened, then Yi Junlin released his true immortal level cultivation. It turns out that his previous realm was all disguised." "What?" Ming Yi was shocked by the news, her face instantly turned ugly and she said, So, the 9 raging flame dragons released by the underworld weapon were extinguished by a mouthful of thick phlegm he spit out. King Dangyu's voice became smaller and smaller as he spoke. Recalling the shocking scene at that time, he was still frightened. Ming Yi's body suddenly trembled, trying to digest this shocking information. He knew very well that the power of the underworld seal at that time was equivalent to the means of the 5th level of the true immortal, and the other party could easily resolve it, which was not something that an ordinary level true immortal could do. Haha, he can hide it so deeply, this person has such a strong character. There was a hint of fear in Ming Yi's eyes. He has always had a high self-esteem and is an outstanding member of the clan. He has always looked down on the famous strong men in the eastern region, believing that he can suppress them all with his own strength. The reason why he accepted the mission and lurked in was to obtain generous rewards, and at the same time to make his reputation greater among the clan, and to pave the way for his future. Later, he spent a lot of money to enter the Kunlun realm. Because he was afraid of being targeted by heaven, he was restrained in doing anything. The mission did not go as smoothly as he expected, but he was still full of confidence and felt that even without using his strength, with the help of strategies and external forces, he could succeed. They can all manipulate the natives of the eastern region at their fingertips. But the plan went seriously awry. A human monk named Yi Junlin disrupted his plan time and time again, knocking the morale-rich Mingyuan army into a state of decline. Now he destroyed the Ming weapons he brought from his tribe, causing heavy losses. Regarding this, Ming Yi simply hated it to the core, and there was anger burning deep in his heart. There is a sense of shame that a creature that claims to be a higher race descends into a lower world but is teased by an aborigine. By the way, he also asked me to bring you a message. King Dangyu suddenly remembered and said cautiously, "I wonder if you want to listen." Oh, Ming Yi raised her eyebrows, and a sneer escaped from the corner of her mouth. Obviously, this is to say harsh words to him. Explain. Ming Yi forced down the anger in his heart and narrowed his eyes slightly. He wanted to hear what kind of threatening words his biggest opponent in the eastern region would say to him. Is it a warning? Is it intimidation? Or ridicule? Combined with what he had seen and heard before, Ming Yi couldn't help but speculate in his heart. Ahem. At this time, King Danyu stood up, glared at Ming Yi, and said angrily, "The sword is not sharp, the horse is too thin, why do you want to fight me?" Ming Yi. This rhyming and arrogant ruthless words caught even Ming Yi, who was mentally prepared, from surprise. Ming Yi frowned and thought carefully, her face gradually became more and more ugly, as gloomy as water. The other person's short sentence was full of disdain and contempt for him. Far better than 1,000 words. After all the failures before the union, Ming Yi's originally suppressed anger suddenly surged to the ground, as if it was about to burn through his whole body, and his whole body was filled with an aura of terror. Boom! Outside the palace, the sky was filled with strong winds, thunder and lightning, and the scene was very scary. "You are looking for death." Ming Yi, with his purple hair flying wildly, pointed at King Danyu with an angry look and roared. "God, please calm down." King Danyu hurriedly knelt on the ground, crying inwardly. "Isn't that what you asked me to say? Do you blame me if your defense is broken?" Gone. At this time, King Danyu was very aggrieved, because he had lost a powerful clone, and now he was angered for no reason, and his heart was filled with panic. Ming Yi realized that he had lost his composure, and after taking a few deep breaths to adjust, he gradually regained his composure. His fists were clenched tightly, and the fear in his eyes deepened. It's unimaginable that he would be angered like this. If he messes up his sense of proportion, then the other party's goal will be achieved. "Yi Junlin, I'm surprised to meet such a difficult opponent like you, but that's fine, if the mission goes too smoothly, what's the point? Next, because of your arrogance, I'll make you pay a huge price." Ming Yi sneered. "God's envoy, now that the underworld weapon has been destroyed, it is better not to take the initiative to provoke him. I am afraid that he will be unhappy and come to the underworld." King Danyu said in fear. After all, can Ming Yuan alone be able to deal with the terrifying existence that can destroy the 9-headed raging flame dragon by just spitting? Ming Yi's face was gloomy. "Are you afraid?" King Danyu twitched his mouth. "Who is not afraid of death?" Ming Yi sneered and said, "HMPH, let alone him who invaded Ming Yuan, even if the immortals from the entire Kunlun world come here, I can make them die." His tone was full of unquestionable domineering. This, King Danyu was shocked. Where did he have the confidence to say this? An immortal can conquer the abyss, let alone the entire Kunlun realm. No, you should be careful when you brag, right? Don't look at me like you're crazy. Ming Yi turned around and looked at the gray world outside, with a proud smile on his lips. "It doesn't matter if I tell you. I said before, Ming Yuan is my Ming Yuan. Created by the ancestor of the tribe, you Ming Yuan tribes have lived here for many years, but you don't know that there is a major secret hidden here. Quote. And with its existence, let alone a small true immortal, even if the legendary immortal king comes here, I am sure to kill him. Do you think there are any creatures of immortal lord's level in the current Kunlun realm? Therefore, even if all the immortals in Kunlun realm put together and enter the abyss together, there will be no return. Not to mention someone like Yi Junlin, he is nothing." Ming Yi said in an arrogant tone. It can be seen that he is confident. Hiss. King Danyu took a deep breath, and then his panic calmed down. It didn't expect that Ming Yuan had such a powerful killing weapon. Can you kill even the aloof immortal lord? As expected of the original owner of Ming Yuan, he knew such a secret. The Yu clan had dominated this place for endless years, but in the end he still had to hold his own. Wait a minute, Lord Divine Envoy, can you use your own power? King Danyu realized this and asked in surprise. What do you think? Ming Yi stretched out his hand with a cold face, and King Danyu instantly felt that there was a terrifying force squeezing from all directions, trying to crush it on the spot. King Danyu is all too familiar with this overwhelming feeling. Immortal, this is the power of immortals. Although I can only perform at the level of an ordinary true immortal at present, it is more than enough to activate it with my other companions. What we have to do is to let the strong humans from the eastern region take the initiative to come in. It's best to deal with them all at once. Ming Yi let go of his hand, his tone filled with murderous intent. King Danyu gasped for air. He was so frightened that cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and he felt deep sorrow in his heart. Even if it was a powerful man who had transcended the tribulation realm, it was just an ant that could be crushed to death in front of a real immortal. Angel, the question is, how can we lure the monks from the eastern region in? Ming Yi put his hands behind his back and showed a meaningful smile. Now we have to use the chess piece I arranged outside. Chapter 193. C-193 Master, you are so small. At the same time, in the desolate state, after the storm subsided, the monks from all walks of life left one after another, excited to take out what they saw and heard today. No need to guess, this will definitely be explosive news that will shock the eastern region. What? Yi Junlin got the chance to become an immortal this time. It seems that he has great luck and will soon become an immortal. You are so funny, he became an immortal many years ago. He was just teasing us. Fuck, I really admire this old man. Can you be more sincere? Good guy, I just call him good guy. Senior Yi vividly interprets what it means to be a big shot. I am confused. Since Senior Yi is already a high-ranking immortal, why does he still like to hide his identity and join the fight of ordinary cultivators? Hey, you don't understand this. I think Senior Yi wants to walk the invincible road again and cleanse his heart because his own cultivation has already been through the sky and the earth. After learning the truth, countless cultivators in the East region felt incredible, but they soon accepted it after thinking about it. After all, there have been many precedents before, but the impact this time is even greater. The white-haired killer god who used to terrorize the 14 states of the eastern region has transformed himself into not only the island master of the fallen immortal island, but also a real immortal. With these two identities combined, his influence is unprecedented. Moreover, Shui Wuan of the Xuanji sword sect came forward to testify and told his personal experience that day, including the reason why he broke through to become an immortal, and admitted that it was due to the guidance of Senior Yi. Everyone knows that this white-clothed sword immortal is the one who sticks to his word, so the credibility of the news is 100%. In an instant, the outside world was full of heated discussions, and the topic revolved around Yi Junlin. Whether it was the cultivation sect or the aristocratic dynasty, they all knew that this was a genuine immortal of the time. After all, so many years have passed, and everyone has only heard that a certain family's Taoist sect had produced an immortal at a certain period, but it was only limited to legends and they had never seen a living one. And the sudden appearance of Yi Junlin surprised countless cultivators. It turned out that the immortal had always been so close to them. Now, the scale of fans has expanded even more. Many female monks spontaneously organized support activities and walked on the street holding signs with the three characters, Yi Junlin, and a heart pattern carved on both sides. Many male monks also began to follow suit, dyeing their hair into the same silver-white color as Yi Junlin, and customizing the same black robe embroidered with gold. They put it on and strolled out excitedly, attracting surprised glances from all walks of life. Can you imagine that on a busy street? 7 out of 10 men, regardless of height, weight, ugly or handsome, are dressed in the same style of silver hair and black robes. This picture is so beautiful. On the other side, Xuantian sect was shrouded in a fiery atmosphere. All disciples and elders held their heads high and walked with the wind, with a kind of excitement and pride from the heart. Just because they learned not long ago that Yi Fengju of Piaomiao Peak had already passed the tribulation and became an immortal, and the previous realm was all disguised. Although it felt outrageous, when I thought about that person's brain circuit, it seemed that this behavior could be accepted again. Master Yi Feng became an immortal in his early years. If he broke through in the sect and there was a thunder tribulation, we would definitely know it. It is said that when you are out there, you should know how to hide your shortcomings and not overexpose your cultivation, but I didn't expect that the one who can do this to the extreme is our Master Yi Feng. Tisk tisk, others only hide a little bit, but when it comes to Master Yi Feng, it's more than 1,000,000,000 points. Due to Yi Junlin's performance art, he has been recognized by more and more disciples and elders, and they have followed suit to hide their own cultivation. Suddenly, an alternative atmosphere was set off within the sect. On weekdays, the grand occasion of transformation and fusion everywhere suddenly changed rapidly, replaced by a low-level and desolate scene, which made people seem to recall the weak period of Xuantian sect again. If at this time, an uninformed strong man lurked in and wanted to find a soft persimmon to squeeze at will, then he will soon be horrified to find that the elder in front of him, who appears to be in the foundation building stage and has a friendly face, bursts out with a terrifying aura belonging to the Mahayana stage in the next second. From today, all members of Xuantian sect enter the 6th era. Yi Junlin did not expect that because of his golden finger that becomes stronger when facing a strong opponent, he would indirectly lead the whole sect's atmosphere astray. It can only be said that the power of example is very strong. On Piaomiao Peak, a group of people surrounded Yi Junlin with very fiery eyes. To be precise, their sights were focused on the things in Yi Junlin's hand. Yi Junlin looked at the mini island in his hand and fell into deep thought. That's right, this mini island is the immortal island that Lu Wangshu passed on to him. Because the area of this immortal island is too large, the entire range is comparable to the sum of hundreds of cities. If it is suspended above the sect, it will definitely cover the sky and the sun, and it will feel awkward no matter how you look at it. So, Yi Junlin thought about whether this island could be reduced to make it easier to move or conceal it. Unexpectedly, after tinkering with it, he discovered that the fairy island had this shrinking function. Out of curiosity, Yi Junlin kept shrinking the fairy island, from the initial huge and boundless sky island to the size of an adult's palm. The whole process can be said to be very fast. Yi Junlin gently placed it on the table. At this time, the fairy island looked like a potted plant, and even its weight became extremely light. It was worthy of being the residence of the former formation master, and its purpose was mysterious. Everyone, I think I can go in, Yi Junlin said with a restless heart. Then you can go in and try it. The head of Tianxiang Peak smiled softly, eager for what would happen next. Can I really go in? There won't be any accidents, right? Zhao Lingder was very nervous, breathing a little fast. It's okay, everyone is watching here, it's very safe. The leader Xu Yunian said seriously. Hehe, junior brother Yi is in the realm of immortals, and it will definitely be very fast to go in. The head of Kangjian Peak rubbed his chin, looking forward to it. My master's cultivation is unparalleled. Just this thing can go in any way you want, in any posture you want, there is no fear at all. Li Wuji patted his chest and said proudly. Since the storm ended and Yi Junlin brought back the fairy island, Xuantian sect was not only in a sensation but also shocked by his immortal identity. In particular, the sect master and several peak masters were very happy and came to ask when the junior brother became an immortal. Faced with the enthusiastic questioning, Yi Junlin had to find an excuse to evade the question. After a chatter, everyone's attention was focused on the fairy island. Rather than an island, this thing is actually a space treasure. It contains the universe and can be enlarged or reduced. It not only contains rich immortal cultivation resources, but also creatures that are suspected to have survived from ancient times. This filled everyone's hearts with curiosity. Okay, then I'll go in. Yi Junlin entered the fairy island without any hesitation. Everyone was stunned and then widened their eyes in surprise. Master, you are so small. Li Wuji's eyes widened, staring at the Yushan island that looked like a potted plant. Strictly speaking, his eyes were focused on the tiny figure. At this time, after Yi Junlin entered the palm-sized Yushan island, his figure also shrank accordingly. If it weren't for the good eyesight of the cultivators, ordinary people would not be able to catch it with their naked eyes. Junior brother Yi is really so small, Xu Yunian and the others said in surprise. Yi Junlin, are you polite? Can you say it in full? Make way, Shu wants to see it too. While speaking, a petite and cute silver-haired loli squeezed in from the crowd, staring at the Yushan island that looked like a potted plant in front of her with her clear and pure eyes. After her eyes stopped at the familiar figure, Bai Xiao she tilted her head, and her childish voice was full of innocence and innocence. Master is small and cute. Chapter 194. C-194 Don't come over here. Yi Junlin, cute, of course the bigger the man, the better. Ahem, I got off track. Yi Junlin retracted his gaze and looked around. The surrounding vegetation was lush and the mountains and rivers were beautiful, just like what he saw during the trial. He immersed himself in his mind and could feel that he and everything here had an inseparable connection. This feeling was as if he was the god here. Yi Junlin breathed a sigh of relief and waved to the outside. No problem, you can all come in. Okay, hearing this, everyone looked excited and couldn't wait to act. Swish swish swish, figures descended on the fairy island one after another, and their bodies became extremely small. Yi Junlin was speechless as he looked at the empty field around him. It seems that the landing location cannot be accurately grasped at present. Forget it, I don't care about them, I'll go around by myself first. After all, Yi Junlin has absolute control over this fairy island, and he doesn't worry about any mistakes. Out of a mentality of sightseeing when he has nothing to do, Yi Junlin began to move around Fairy Island. At the same time, in a forest somewhere, the leader of Kangjian Peak scratched his head and muttered, could it be that the posture of entering is wrong, and he is so far away from junior brother Yi? The leader of Kangjian Peak suddenly discovered something, tentatively grabbed a handful of black soil under his feet, and felt the traces of fairy spirit contained in it. He was so excited that he was incoherent. This is fairy soil. Great opportunity, this is a great opportunity. The leader of Kangjian Peak was so happy that he grabbed the soil and stuffed it into his mouth. Even if it was difficult to swallow, it could not stop his desire to become stronger. If this fairy soil was eaten, he could refine the fairy spirit contained in it, which would be of great benefit to the growth of his cultivation. Although it tasted very bitter, in the eyes of the master of Kangjian Peak, this was the sweetest thing he had ever eaten. This is how cultivating immortals should be, first bitter then sweet. Suddenly, a series of footsteps came from not far away, and it sounded as if they were jumping. The master of Kangjon Peak subconsciously turned his head to look, and his mouth opened wide in shock, and he could see the black mud. The person who came was a 2-meter-tall kangaroo, with bulging muscles all over his body and 18 standard abdominal muscles on his belly. This muscular kangaroo looked at the green-clothed man eating mud, and his eyes showed a strange meaning. Then, it jumped to the front, turned around and held back its strength as if it was brewing something. A few seconds later, a black lump was pulled out from behind the buttocks, emitting hot gas. After pooping, the muscular kangaroo walked away in a chic manner. Looking at the black mass on the ground and the mud that he wanted to stuff into his mouth, the expression of the master of Kangjon Peak froze, his nostrils expanded, and his lips trembled. It turned out that he had been eating. Thinking of this, the master of Kangjon Peak felt his stomach churning, and he had an urge to vomit. Then he lay on the ground and vomited. He was even afraid that he had not vomited at all, so he put his hand on his throat and retched. This immortal fate is really unbearable. Fuck, you urinate and defecate here, do you still have a sense of public morality? If you have the guts, come out, I promise not to chop you to death. The master of Kangjon Peak drew out his long sword and shouted with almost uncontrollable emotions. But his cultivation can only play the level of chi training here. After all, everything on the Yunxian island is covered by rules so as to prevent the creatures here from destroying the environment on the island when fighting breaks out. This was also carefully formulated by Lu Wangshu for stability. Swish, a gust of wind blew by. The muscular kangaroo appeared again, this time with its eyes wide open, and 2 streams of white air sprayed from its nostrils, as if asking the other party why he blamed himself. You, the leader of the Kangjon Peak realized that his previous talk had brought him trouble, and he was so scared that he almost couldn't hold the sword steadily. To be able to pull out a rake with fairy spirit, even a fool would know that this must be something that a fairy-level creature can do. So, the body of this muscular kangaroo must be a demon fairy. No, why should I be afraid of you? Everyone is the same here. The leader of the Kangjon Peak reacted, and instantly felt confident. He pointed the long sword in his hand at the muscular kangaroo and scolded. Hey, you evil beast, how dare you urinate and defecate anywhere, I will teach you a lesson. As he said that, he chopped with the sword, and the sword wind whistled past. The muscular kangaroo was completely angry. I'm kind enough to give you something to eat, and you still blame me. You don't like it too fresh, right? The muscular kangaroo was furious and swung his fist as big as a sandbag, deciding to reason with this ignorant human. Bang bang bang, pa 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 pa. 10 seconds later. A blue-clothed man with a swollen face like a pig's head, curled up on the ground with his head in his hands and bleeding from his nose, wailing in pain, Stop hitting me. Stop hitting me, Master Rat, I was wrong, isn't that enough? The muscular kangaroo stopped and bent his strong right arm, with his biceps particularly full, as if showing off his muscles. Its eyes were full of human contempt. Tisk, little trash. On the other side, under the cliff, Li Wuji was wandering around, and he felt that the scene here was somewhat familiar. Li Wuji walked to a familiar place based on his memory, and looked up to see a spacious cave. Could it be? An idea came to Li Wuji's mind, and his breathing became rapid. He leapt up, and entered the dark cave with a feeling of trepidation and expectation. When he reached the end, Li Wuji froze in place. His nostrils expanded, his eyes were filled with hot tears, and he trembled and said, Eagle my eagle. In front of him, there was an eagle with feathers like swords and a majestic body. It had closed its eyes to rest, but after hearing the sincere call, it opened its golden eyes in surprise. Facing Li Wuji, the eagle's eyes were full of doubts. And several question marks appeared on its head. Who was this guy? As time passed, other people also triggered their own adventures on the island and gained a lot. For example, the sect leader Shu Yunian watched a one-legged thunder bull swallowing and spitting out lightning, and had a great understanding of the way of thunder. The leader of Tianxiang Peak sat cross-legged in the colorful sea of flowers and created his own magic from it. There were colorful butterflies flying around, and the air was filled with fairy air. Such a good place, but I have no chance to be with it. It's a pity to think about it carefully. On the forest path, Hong Chenny walked with mixed feelings. With his eyesight, he naturally saw the huge potential of this fairy island. Every creature here is shrouded by rules. If you pass by an animal casually, the origin of its body is terrifying. And this group of powerful creatures that were originally able to call the wind and rain in the Kunlun realm are now restricted to this island. Only the island owner is qualified to use them. Is there a yard there? Hong Chenny narrowed his phoenix eyes, and an idea emerged in his mind. Could this be the residence of the ancient immortal back then? Thinking of this, Hong Chenny was very nervous, but also had strong expectations. This courtyard must be extraordinary. If he could benefit from it, it would be of great help to his path to becoming an immortal. With a nervous heart, Hong Chenny tentatively came to the gate of the courtyard and pushed open the creaking wooden door. He walked in carefully and looked around nervously. This courtyard looked ordinary, but after the door was opened, Hong Chenny suddenly had a strange feeling, as if the space that had been sealed for a long time was unlocked, and the gears of time began to run normally. What came into view was a pond, a mud pot covered with grass, a willow tree, a well, a chicken fence, and a little donkey tied to the stable. Cluck, cluck, cluck. The loud chicken calls came from the fence, mixed with excitement. In the pond, dozens of golden carps were swimming, bubbling out of the water. Their eyes were round, as if they couldn't wait to see who was entering the yard. Son, 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 the little donkey raised his head and called out to Hong Chenny. Shut up, you stupid donkey. Hong Chenny's forehead was throbbing with veins, and the donkey cry almost drove him crazy. Then, Hong Chenny looked around carefully and was disappointed. This yard was very ordinary, and there was no opportunity he was looking for. Damn it, I waited for nothing. Looking at the shabby clay pot on the stone table, Hong Chenny was quite angry and knocked it to the ground. Bang! The clay pot fell heavily to the ground, and the loose soil spilled out, along with the green grass. In an instant, the air suddenly fell into silence. The chickens stopped crowing, the donkeys stopped shouting, and the fish stopped spitting bubbles. There was a weird atmosphere. Hong Chenny sneered, "Humph, finally quiet." Just as he patted the dust in his hands and turned to leave, the clay pot suddenly burst out with a terrible breath. To be precise, it was the clusters of tender grass planted in the clay pot. In Hong Chenny's vision, the originally ordinary pot of grass, each leaf danced in unison, releasing a terrifying arrogance that wanted to burn the starry sky. Even immortals who touched it would be burned to ashes and never reincarnated. This is the legendary burning immortal grass. Hong Chenny's heart was shocked and screamed. He had read in ancient books that there was a kind of immortal grass that was extremely terrible, and the flames released could burn powerful immortals to death. At first, Hong Chenny thought it was nonsense. What kind of grass was so fierce that even immortals would die if they encountered it, but now it seems that what the book said is conservative. A plant of burning immortal grass has the power to burn immortals to death, and now this clay pot is full of it. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Inside the fence, the chickens' cries suddenly became sharp and aggressive. A dozen roosters and hens flapped their wings and flew out, glaring at Hong Chenny, as if questioning him. Boom! Hong Chenny's head almost exploded, because in his eyes, those flying out were not roosters and hens, but male and female phoenixes, spreading their wings and releasing thousands of feet of colorful rays of light, filled with auspicious and sacred atmosphere. Phoenix, these are all phoenixes. Hong Chenny was so scared that his face turned pale, and beads of sweat overflowed from his forehead and slid down his beautiful cheeks. At this time, he noticed something and looked towards the pond. On the water surface, countless golden carps floated out of the water, as if they had turned into golden and brilliant dragons, opening their mouths to emit majestic dragon roars, and the dragon's power spread. This is a dragon, and it is a pure-blooded 5-clawed golden dragon. Hong Chenny's face was dull and his head was buzzing. Son, the donkey bray sounded loudly. Hong Chenny looked over subconsciously, and her pupils shrank in horror. The donkey tied to the stable broke the rope and walked slowly towards him. At this time, the donkey suddenly changed into another appearance. It was hundreds of millions of feet tall, with demonic energy rolling all over its body. Its eyes were like the sun and the moon hanging high in the sky, and its bloody mouth could swallow half of the planet. Ah, don't come over here. Even though Hong Chenny was a giant of the magic world who had become an immortal and had seen all kinds of storms, he would still be scared to collapse after being stimulated beyond his cognition. At this moment, a handsome guy happened to walk into the yard. Looking at the scene in the yard, Yi Junlin was stunned in disbelief. In his eyes, the once high and mighty leader of the magic cult was now forced into a corner by a group of chickens and a donkey, with visible fear on his face, and he was shaking all over with fear. This scene is quite funny. When did this traitor become so timid? Yi Junlin rubbed his chin, feeling very puzzled. Chapter 195. C-195. The creatures in the courtyard, each with a great origin. Master, save me. Hong Chenny was frightened and shouted desperately when she saw that familiar figure, as if she had grasped a life-saving straw. A group of chickens and a donkey looked over at the same time. When they saw Yi Junlin, they all stopped as if struck by lightning. The air froze instantly. Yi Junlin was a little confused as to why these domestic animals were acting strangely. Among them, an old hen came to Yi Junlin with its head tilted up and down, seemingly making a confirmation. When the confirmation was correct, tears suddenly flowed from its eyes, it flapped its wings excitedly, raised its head and croaked. Clack. Suddenly, the whole courtyard was boiling. The fish jumped happily in the pond, the chickens circled around Yi Junlin excitedly, and even the donkey stood upright on his feet as if he was tap dancing. Obviously, they are welcoming this young man. Interesting, haha. Yi Junlin was also amused by this scene. At the same time, his eyes squinted at Hong Chenny, as if to say, what are you afraid of? Red Chiba in the corner looked confused. What's going on? Treat them differently, right? After noticing Yi Junlin's contemptuous eyes, Hong Chenny's self-esteem seemed to have been severely damaged by hundreds of millions of points. He quickly excused himself. Master, you don't know how scary they are. The bodies of these chickens are all phoenixes, the fish in the pond are all 5-clawed golden dragons, that donkey is the supreme demon, and even the pot of grass on the ground is a vicious thing that can make an immortal fall. As soon as these words came out, Yi Junlin was stunned. Is there such a thing? He looked at the group of livestock carefully with a scrutinizing gaze. If you think about it carefully, there is a scene of a primeval forest outside, but there is a courtyard here. This must be the place where the big boss lived back then. Are the creatures that can stay here as simple as they seem on the surface? What's more, this has survived from ancient times to the present. Yi Junlin squatted down, touched his mouth, and looked at the old hen in front of him, but no matter how he looked at it, it felt ordinary to him, nothing special. Because the other party was suspected of being an old-timer, Yi Junlin took the initiative and said politely, Chicken, you are so beautiful. Grr. The old hen who was praised flapped her wings happily, as if she recognized the young man's praise. Hey, I really understand. Yi Junlin said with great interest. Then let me ask you, is what my apprentice just said true? Cluck. The old hen tilted her head, expressing doubts. Yi Junlin looked at the other livestock again, all looking confused. Master, they are all just pretending. Hong Chiba complained emotionally. After all, she had been frightened not long ago, and now she is still frightened when she thinks about it. At this time, Hong Chenny was trembling with anger when she saw these livestock pretending to be garlic. Hearing this, Yi Junlin's eyes flickered, and he probably had a guess in his mind. Turning to look at the little donkey, Yi Junlin's eyes lit up, he walked over and patted it on the head, jokingly saying, Xiao Wei, we meet again. He could tell that the unique little donkey he had tamed in the chicken battle in the 3rd level was based on the prototype of this donkey. It must have been deliberately added by Lu Wangshu based on reality. Mount roll. The little donkey was very confused. It was obviously the first time that you and I met, so why did you say it again? My son. Regarding the name Xiao Wei, the little donkey brayed with some dissatisfaction, feeling that it was not very domineering. Yi Junlin's hand trembled, and his face turned dark instantly. The donkey braying was too harsh. What's the difference between this and swearing? Thinking of the little donkey in the chicken battleground, it seems that it never meowed like this from the beginning to the end. It seems that the sound settings have been changed. If you are screaming, I will make you into donkey meat and burn it. Yi Junlin said in a bad tone. Son, the little donkey was shocked and closed its mouth in time. Yi Junlin picked up the clay jar that fell on the ground and put it back on the stone table. The grass in the clay jar was particularly tall and straight, as if to pay tribute to the young man's arrival. Since you don't want to tell me, I won't ask. I believe you will take the initiative to tell me in the future. Yi Junlin looked around the courtyard and said with an indifferent expression. Zhao Hong, disciple is here, let's go. Ah, are you leaving now? You don't want to leave? Then stay with them. With that said, Yi Junlin walked out of the yard and was about to close the wooden door. No, I'm leaving. I'm leaving right away. Hong Chenny looked at the group of livestock and remembered the horrific scene just now. Her face turned pale with fright, and she rushed out of the yard as if her buttocks were on fire. Creaking, the wooden door closed again. Yi Junlin put his hands behind his back and took a few steps lightly, then looked back with a meaningful expression. Master, you. Hong Chenny could tell that this silver-haired young man must know something, so he didn't ask too many questions in the yard. Don't ask, just ask and you will understand. Yi Junlin shrugged, turned and left. Behind her, Hong Chenny froze on the spot for a few seconds, then caught up again, muttering in her heart, the Riddler. He turned his head and glanced at the small courtyard, and couldn't help but shudder. It's terrible, it's really terrible. In the past, the group of immortals who were high in the central realm would be so frightened that they would run out crying if they went in as a group. This small courtyard is simply the most dangerous forbidden area in Kunlun realm. While walking, Yi Junlin's eyes flashed as he recalled what had just happened. Logically speaking, he has inherited Immortal Island and is the well-deserved god here, but when he entered that courtyard, there was a feeling that it was beyond his control. Is it possible that I still can't meet the highest permission standards? Yi Junlin said secretly. After much thought, this is the only possibility. He finally figured out that the chickens, carps, and donkeys in that yard, including the pot of grass, and even the willow tree, were all probably of great origin. Due to some special reasons, he could only stay in that courtyard and was not allowed to go out without permission. The reason why he was very kind and enthusiastic towards him was probably because he knew that he was the new island owner. Is it because you think the time is not right and you are hiding something from me? Forget it, the island is under my control anyway. As long as they are still here, they will tell me the truth one day. Yi Junlin thought very clearly and hummed a tune. You are not in a hurry, and neither am I. Love so and so. Yard, grr, a loud rooster crow sounded. The old hen held her head high, showing off her beauty. Did you see that the new island owner just praised my grandma for her beauty? The new island owner is right, Granny Huang is beautiful. Someone from the same group said flatteringly. This new island owner is really discerning, but the previous one never praised me so much. This is the difference. The old hen sighed. Obviously, Yi Junlin's words, chicken, you are so beautiful, won the favor of this old fairy phoenix. Son, oh, Mr. Donkey, I feel very hurt. This new island owner has no better temper than the one named Lu. He actually wants to make me into donkey meat and burn it. The little donkey complained. And they named me Xiao Wei. This name is not domineering at all. HMPH, be content. With your kind of character, who can tolerate you? The old hen squinted. Because you were so beautiful, she gained favor, so she was speaking for Yi Junlin. Bah, the little donkey spat and said disdainfully, you speak to the new island owner so quickly without even looking at the fact that you are now a chicken. Who in the right mind would think that a chicken is beautiful? Are you serious about praising you for being beautiful? Hear the words. The old hen became furious instantly and put on a fighting stance. Donkey, you're looking for a fight, right? My son, come and beat me. The little donkey shook his head and shouted. As the former supreme demon, it has the capital to challenge the old immortal phoenix. Grandma Huang, let's help you. A group of chickens were aggressive, flapping their wings and trying to peck the donkey. Come on, Mr. Donkey, I'll kick a little cock. The little donkey raised its shiny black left hoof and said proudly. Fight. On the pond, the group of golden carp puffed out bubbles and had bulging eyes, as if they were just watching the fun and not taking it too seriously. The grass in the clay pot began to sway, as if cheering. Quiet, everyone. At this moment, a cold female voice suddenly sounded, carrying an irresistible and majestic tone. The originally noisy courtyard became silent. The carps shrank their heads back in fear, and the grass in the clay pot stood very straight. Both the senior hen and the arrogant little donkey were silent and did not dare to speak. Their eyes were filled with fear, and they looked at the willow tree cautiously. And this willow tree is the creature with the highest status in the whole yard. Warm reminder. If you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error, or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. Chapter 196. C196 Only success is allowed, not failure. Everyone, when Immortal Island comes to light again and this courtyard is opened again, it means that the gears of fate have begun to turn. Our existence is the backup that was left behind back then. What we have to do in the future is to assist the new island owner. Protect the Kunlun realm. The green willow branches fluttered in the wind, and the cold voice slowly came from the willow tree, echoing clearly in the yard. Son, just when the little donkey was about to speak out of habit, he felt a coldness hit his heart. He was so frightened that he quickly stopped saying the word, and his long donkey face showed a humane and flattering smile. Miss Lu understands the righteousness deeply. That's so right. One thing is that this new island owner's cultivation level is really weak. He is a true immortal at the 6th level. In the previous Kunlun world, he was just cannon fodder at best. Is it really okay for us to place our hopes on him? The old hen hesitated for a while and then said, although the new island owner is very nice to talk to, his cultivation is really poor. This is why I didn't confess to him just now. And the most important thing is that because we have been sealed in this space for too long, everyone's realm has seriously deteriorated and we need to slowly recover. If we expose our identities in advance, we may be ordered to do things by the new island owner. This our recovery was bad. That's right, an old carp headed by an old carp surfaced from the water, and said in a calm and vicissitudes of voice, now the Kunlun world has entered the recovery stage, but the laws of heaven and earth are still in the process of being perfected. Creatures of our level who take action without authorization will cause us backlash. I understand your concerns. The branches of the willow tree fluttered in the wind, full of spring, and the cold voice was full of determination, but I believe in Island Master Lu's vision. This must be a chosen one. So what if he is weak now? People will grow. We must do yes, it is to help him when necessary. This is our mission and the promise we made to Island Master Lu back then. Quote. The little donkey drooped his ears and sighed, it's really hard to repay this debt of gratitude. Mr. Donkey, I don't want to stay in the yard all the time. I really want to see the outside world, travel around the world, and know more about it. The little female donkey. Grr. The old hen flapped her wings and said with disdain, you stupid donkey, don't harm this little girl. If Island Master Lu hadn't protected you back then, you would have been besieged to death by those immortal level creatures. How could you still survive? Until now. Auntie, I remember that you knelt on the ground and begged for mercy from Island Master Lu. When you learned that you could join the immortal island, you were even more grateful and kowtowed in thanks. Hear this. The little donkey stared angrily. This was a dark history that it could not bear to look back on. Now it was brought up again by the old hen. It was so angry that it gritted its teeth and wisps of green smoke came out of its head. Are you and your tribe glorious? Back then, your lineage lost the battle and was forced to escape from the Phoenix clan. You died and suffered injuries during the escape, just like a bereaved dog. If Island Master Lu hadn't been kind enough to take you in, you would have been made into delicacies and placed on the dining tables of all the great immortal emperors. The little donkey said not to be outdone. Hearing this, the old hen took 2 steps back, trembling with anger, and said unwillingly, so, we are grateful to Island Master Lu, unlike a guy like you who only complains. Son, oh, donkey, don't I even have the power to complain? The little donkey retorted emotionally. Enough. An unmistakable cold voice came from the willow tree. Seeing this person speaking, the old hen and the little donkey became silent. Willow said coldly, which creature who can come to this courtyard doesn't have a story? Why attack each other with this? We can still see the light of day again, but some people will continue to be sealed because of their mistakes back then. Compared to him, we are already lucky, said. The other creatures all looked at the dry well. Ta 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 ta, the little donkey stepped on its hooves and looked towards the well. The bottom of the well was dark and filled with nothingness. He said in a joking tone, this man is really miserable. After so many years, I don't know how he is doing. Misery. Just based on the noise this guy made back then, he's not going to die until he's dead. The old hen said angrily. So, be content and recover your cultivation. The enemies we will face later will definitely be very powerful. Willow said solemnly. Yes, Miss Lu. Everyone nodded. In the yard, tranquility returned again. King Zhou, Feather Gate. A middle-aged man wearing gorgeous clothes and with a majestic aura stood on the highest attic with his hands behind his back, looking at the majestic scene, and sighed, hey, time doesn't wait for us. Sect Master, what's the news from Mingyuan? Mr. Lu behind him asked tentatively. Since Yi Junline's identity as an immortal was exposed, there has been a period of public opinion from the outside world, and the Yuha sect has been implicated. After all the monks in the eastern region knew that the Yuha sect had a grudge against the Xuantian sect. To put it bluntly, it was because they couldn't deal with Yi Junline. As his reputation reached its peak, the Yuhua sect, which had previously been in conflict with him, was also pushed to the forefront. The more powerful Yi Junline behaves, the more stupid the Yuha sect's original behavior was. It's not good for you to offend anyone in the Yuha sect, but you have to offend this old monster who has already become an immortal. He has been led by the nose from the beginning to the end. It's shameful, shameful. It is even rumored that Yuha sect has gone downhill and is not qualified to be called the first holy place for cultivating immortals in the East region. This position should be given to Xuantian sect. It is enough to see how bad this public opinion is to Yuha sect. At this time, the leader of Yuha sect said in a deep voice, "According to the request of the God's messenger, we need to issue a conquest order, summon strong men from the 14 states of the East region, and formally form a large coalition of cultivators to attack the Nether Abyss." Ah, this. Old Lu opened his turbid eyes wide and showed a look of astonishment. What kind of strange request is this? Are you tired of living? Shouldn't you reduce your presence at this time? Why are you rushing to die here? Is the Stargate plan going to be abandoned in advance? Old Lu was very confused and felt that this behavior was going against the grain. The current Nether Abyss is no longer as aggressive and powerful as it was when it launched a large-scale attack on the East region. After a series of painful blows, it is now in low morale and lingering. Just like a grasshopper after autumn, it can't jump for a few days. If you add more fuel to the fire, then... Old Lu, I know what you mean. Since Yi Junlin killed the Lord of the Nether Abyss in public, the morale of the human cultivators has soared. During this period, they began to counterattack. The Nether Abyss troops stranded in various places collapsed at the touch of a button. The territories we seized with the Nether Abyss were also successively occupied by major forces. Things have developed to this point. The Stargate project can be said to have failed miserably. The leader of the Yuha sect gritted his teeth, and a sense of irritation emerged in his heart. Even he didn't expect that things would get out of control so quickly. This was completely contrary to the plan. Yi Junlin, it's all Yi Junlin's fault. Why would such a person appear? I still remember that when this news was passed to the 5 ancestors, it caused a huge shock. Especially the Tianong ancestor, who felt extremely incredible. He even speculated whether Yi Junlin was an old monster who survived from the ancient times, because he had lived for so long, and this was the first time he heard that there was a true immortal named Yi in the East region. But now that things have come to this, it is meaningless to dwell on this. After all, below the immortals, we are all ants. As long as one is an immortal, he is the chess player, and he is qualified to decide the direction of the entire East region situation. Therefore, if Yu Huaman still wants to make small moves behind the scenes, it must be very careful. What about the envoy? Lu Lao was suspicious of this suicidal approach. Could it be that he knew that his plan was hopeless and planned to sacrifice Ming Yuan to help Yu Huaman? It's a bit great. The leader of Yuha sect waved his hand. I know what you are thinking. I felt very strange at first, and even suspected that the envoy was afraid of being retaliated and wanted us to cooperate with him to play a big drama of escaping from the shell. But later, he secretly revealed to me that he had a killer in the Nether Abyss. As long as we lead the strong men from the East region over, he will be sure to kill them all. Even an immortal like Yi Junlin will be wiped out on the spot. What? Old Lu's eyes almost popped out and his heart almost stopped beating. This news is too sensational. Haha, you are scared, right? I felt the same as you at the beginning. The leader of Yuha sect showed a playful smile. Master, if this plan succeeds, then the entire East region will no longer have the power to resist us, and the major sects will face a situation of a gap in the strong. From then on, my Yuha sect will be the only one in power and can rest assured. Old Lu reacted and said with ecstasy. That's right. The leader of Yuha sect nodded, with a fierce look on his face. The forces outside the domain are powerful. The choice of Yuha sect is not wrong. As the saying goes, a man of insight is a hero. Since they are loyal to Yi Junlin, they deserve to be buried alive. He knew that in this game, Yuha sect had no way out. If the truth came out, they would be liquidated and exterminated. But if everything went well, they would transform into a real immortal sect, enjoy endless resources for cultivating immortals, and their orthodoxy would last forever. This time, only success is allowed, not failure. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula_tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail. 300 times 250 feet. Placement. Below article thumbnail 300 times 250 feet. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 197. C-197 800,000 Navy, Crazy Pace. Soon, a shocking news came out from the Yuha Gate. Fellow Taoists, I, the Yuha sect, are grateful for the hardships of life for the common people, and are preparing to gather an army to attack the abyss, create peace for all generations and avoid future troubles forever. After this domineering declaration was issued, it spread like a storm throughout the 14 states of the eastern region, causing a huge sensation everywhere. Suddenly, there was overwhelming discussion. Damn it, the Yuha sect is worthy of being the first of the top 10 immortal sects in the eastern region, and it is actually determined to eradicate the scourge of Ming Yuan. If this feat can be achieved, it will definitely be a great achievement. The Yuha sect is awesome and dares to be the first in the world. It has to be said that as soon as this statement was issued, the prestige of the Yuha sect soared instantly. All the previous doubts and sarcastic voices disappeared one after another, and no one dared to be sarcastic behind his back anymore. It could be said that he saved his face and regained everyone's favor. Pingzhou, Dragon Phoenix Restaurant. The consumption here is not cheap, the ingredients are very precious, and low-level monks are not blessed to enjoy them. At this time, the guests were eating, drinking, and chatting about the latest hot gossip. Have you heard that the Yuha sect is devoting all its efforts to attack Mingyuan personally? My darling, who doesn't know about this now? This news has occupied the front page of the Cultivation World Daily for several days. Those hateful creatures from the abyss are finally finished. It's time, it's time. Just thinking about it will relieve your anger. Although they have been completely defeated and retreated back to the abyss, this is also a dangerous place that is easy to defend but difficult to attack. Who knows what dangers may be hidden inside? That's right. After all, the abyss has existed for a long time. Even the sages of the human race only repelled them and did not continue to go deep into the interior to crusade. You can imagine how difficult it is. It was obvious that the topic everyone was talking about revolved around the Yuha sect incident. If there was a so-called hot search list in the eastern region, then this incident would definitely occupy the top spot. From the discussion, we can also see everyone's supportive attitude. Bang! Suddenly, a tall and powerful man with a broadsword on his back slammed the table and stood up, saying in a loud voice. Fellow Taoists, Yuha sect has such a dedicated spirit, shouldn't we do something? His voice was loud, and the topic was quite sensitive, so he suddenly drowned out the noisy restaurant. The whole place was silent, and everyone looked surprised. At the same time, hundreds of spiritual consciousnesses were focused on the tall man, but the tall man had no stage fright and his waist was straight. My dear friend, what do you mean by this? Among them, a man as thin as a monkey with an ancient crown on his hair stood up, took the lead to break the deadlock, and asked seriously with his hands raised. The tall man's eyes were straight and his brows were righteous, and he said in a deep voice, now that Mingyuan is weak, why don't you all take advantage of this momentum and follow the Yuha sect to go deep into Ming Abyss to kill the enemy? This, the skinny little man muttered. Everyone around looked at each other, a little embarrassed. After all, most of the monks wanted to watch the Yuha sect's announcement of a crusade, and did not want to end up personally, for fear of being involved and leaving no trace of their bodies. Anyway, the Abyss army has been completely defeated and has retreated back to its lair. It will not be possible for hundreds of thousands of years to come. Now that the Golden Age has begun, various opportunities arise frequently, and no one wants to take risks at this juncture. It's not worth it if you lose your life. This is also the sentiment of almost all the guests in the restaurant. I support you, you can donate money or materials, but if you put yourself at risk, then. The thin man sighed and said helplessly, I know what this dear friend means, but things are not as simple as you think. Everyone has their own difficulties. Ha 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 ha. As soon as he finished speaking, the tall man raised his head and laughed loudly. The laughter was full of ridicule, making everyone's faces gradually look ugly. The thin man frowned and said displeased, why are you laughing? I laugh at you for being so timid. I laugh at you because you are greedy for life and afraid of death. I laugh at your hypocrisy. The tall man shouted angrily with no regard for everyone's face. Boom! Suddenly, terrifying auras erupted, as if the murderous intent had materialized and concentrated on him. The temperature in the restaurant suddenly dropped to freezing point, and all the guests present were filled with anger, and they all wanted to teach this rude young man a lesson. Even so, the tall man was not afraid, with his head held high and his eyes bright. At this time, he looked fearless and sneered. What, did I tell you everything? Instead of fighting those beasts in Mingyuan, you want to kill me, who tells the truth? Is this how you treat your compatriots? Come on, kill me. If my death can awaken your conscience, then I deserve to die. Hearing this, everyone's faces were burning, and no one dared to take the lead in attacking. The thin man said in a deep voice, my dear friend, please don't be impulsive. Everyone is very happy that the Yuha sect is preparing to conquer Mingyuan. I believe that many people are willing to contribute. Fart, the tall man shouted angrily, it's okay to lie to others, but don't lie to yourself. Do you think I don't know what's going on in your minds? It's just that you feel that the threat to the underworld is gone, so you just want to stay out of it and live a stable life again. After all, if the Yuha sect wins, everyone will be happy. If the crusade fails, you won't lose anything. Seeing their inner thoughts exposed, everyone felt so embarrassed that they wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. The Yuha sect could have recuperated, but they chose to raise troops to attack the Mingyuan. Why? Isn't it for the peace of the world and to create a peaceful and prosperous era for our descendants? Just ask, what a noble and righteous act this is. And you only know how to hide in the rear and indulge in pleasure, and do things that make a living. And you keep saying that you support it, bah! Do you still have any shame? The tall man was filled with righteous indignation, accusing with spit flying. Enough. Just when everyone was about to lose face and wanted to refute, the thin man glared and questioned. Why do you have to speak so high-soundingly? Do you dare to risk your life and devote yourself to this expedition? Everyone nodded, looking indignant. I dare. Unexpectedly, the tall man straightened his chest, his eyes were particularly firm, and his tone was sonorous and powerful. The reason why I dare is because I want to seek justice for countless compatriots who were killed, and I want their blood not to be shed in vain. I don't want to spend every night in the future in endless self-blame and regret. I want to let the Taoist friends of Yuhuaman know that they are not fighting alone, but there are people with lofty ideals like me who are willing to take action for the dignity of the human race. The generous and heroic voice echoed up and down the restaurant, and fell clearly into everyone's heart. Everyone was shocked and struggled in their hearts. Everyone, take care of yourself. The tall man turned around decisively and left, leaving behind a firm back. The thin man looked at the back, stunned. A few seconds later, he sighed, bowed and said, I've learned. As he said, he was about to leave the scene. My Taoist friend, where are you going? A middle-aged man said in doubt. The thin man said in a deep voice, I plan to return to the sect and call on everyone to unite and contribute their due strength to the crusade against the underworld. The middle-aged man was shocked. No, are you serious? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the thin man walked to the door of the restaurant, suddenly stopped, turned around and said seriously, I have something to say, but I don't know whether I should say it or not. Fellow Taoist, please feel free to say it. Everyone pricked up their ears and listened carefully. The thin man looked at the group of guests and said solemnly. Next, whether you are willing to be a coward for life or a hero for a while, it all depends on you, just have a clear conscience. After that, he turned and left. The restaurant was dead silent, and you could hear a pin drop. Many people clenched their teeth, their noses were sour, their clenched fists were even shaking, and they were struggling madly in their hearts. This taste is really uncomfortable. Oh my God. After a while, a loud shout sounded. A young man dressed in gorgeous brocade clothes and with an imposing noble air slammed the table and stood up. There were two flames burning in his eyes, and his whole body felt hot and his expression was very excited. Sir, where are you going? The guest at the next table asked cautiously. I want to submit a memorial to my father and send troops to assist Yuhuaman to attack Mingyuan. After saying that, the young man, who seemed to have a great background, left the restaurant quickly with several followers. I'll go too. In an instant, as if a chain reaction had formed, many guests made up their minds and left the restaurant one after another. Those who can eat here are either rich or noble, and almost all have backgrounds. At this time, they are holding their beliefs and intend to return to their respective forces, strongly proposing to support Yuhuaman. Soon, all the guests in the restaurant ran away. The waiter was dumbfounded. Boss, how come they? Next to him, a middle-aged man with a rich face and a big belly was moved to tears and choked up. Boy, you don't understand, this is a state of mind. The problem is, they all ran away, who will pay the bill? At the same time, in a remote alley far away from the restaurant. The tall man smiled and said, how about it, my emotions just now are full enough. It's okay, but I'll be more careful next time. I'm afraid someone will really dare to take action if they get angry. The thin man said. Oh, I was just too immersed in the role, I didn't care so much. Haha, it's better to be safe than sorry, after all, we are doing a shady business. Speaking of which, the employer who placed the order this time is really rich and powerful. He actually hired 800,000 of us at one time just to build momentum for Yuhuaman's action. Do you think this is? Shut up, we made a big oath to the devil in our hearts. If the news leaks out, you know the consequences. Yes, look at my memory, then let's go to a place quickly. Remember, no matter who the employer is, we only need to collect money and do the work. After all, when it comes to setting the pace, we are professionals. Chapter 198. C-198 The east wind blows, the drums of war beat. With the 800,000 Navy troops with superb acting skills leading the pace day and night in the major states of the eastern region, many cultivators were indirectly affected. A trend of supporting Yuhuaman is spreading rapidly. Even in the eastern region, newspapers with recognized authority have followed this trend and made use of the topic to turn the content of the next few issues of the daily newspaper of the cultivation world into words such as supporting Yuhuaman. Many cultivators have put forward slogans, not to let Yuhuaman fight alone, to unite all the strong men in the eastern region and unite to attack Mingyuan together. Many sects, dynasties, and families were affected by this intense emotion and were swept up by huge public opinion. They all made statements to the outside world, willing to send teams to join the ranks of the crusade against Mingyuan. For everyone's good intentions, the leader of Yuhuaman immediately expressed his gratitude and made public the place and time of the assembly. The time was set on the 15th day. The location was in Shanhaiguan. Just when the storm of the crusade against Mingyuan in the outside world was in full swing. Desolate state, Xuantian sect, on Piaomiao Peak. Swish, swish, swish. Several streams of light of different colors shot out from the mini island and fell on the ground and turned into human figures. Sect Master Shu Union put his hands behind his back, with terrifying lightning runes flashing in his eyes, and a strong and intimidating aura permeated his body. After this period of time of comprehending the way of thunder, his cultivation has made great progress. He is already a leader in the realm of crossing the calamity. It is probably only a matter of time before he can prove his way to become an immortal. The so-called immortality first requires proving the way, and a thunder cultivator like him who concentrates on the great way of thunder will undoubtedly be more advantageous in proving his way to become an immortal as the laws of heaven and earth gradually recover. The other peak masters have all gained a lot in the island of immortality. Their realm and strength have increased a lot. They look high-spirited and in high spirits. Ha ha ha, I'm finally out. I'm finally out, the peak master of Kangjian Peak shouted excitedly. Thinking of him being beaten like a sandbag by the muscle kangaroo, he felt like crying without tears. But the amazing thing is that although he was beaten day and night, he felt as if his body had been tempered, and his acupuncture points and meridians were reshaped, and he felt like he had been reborn. The most important thing is that after he ate the muscle kangaroo's paw, the remaining immortal energy actually remained in his body, constantly nourishing his foundation and Taoist bones, making his cultivation advance by leaps and bounds. It can be said that it was a blessing in disguise. So much so that the leader of Kangjian Peak even wanted to lose face and eat a few more hot bites. Of course, this is just a thought, and there is no possibility of putting it into practice. Hey, senior brother Jian, your mouth stinks, it feels like you have eaten feces. The leader of Tianxiang Peak is very sensitive to bad smells. She pinched her nose and quickly moved away from the man in green, her charming face full of disgust. Nonsense, be careful or I'll sue you for defamation. The leader of Kangjian Peak was stunned, and then hurriedly retorted as if he had stepped on his tail. Okay, stop it, Shu Union said helplessly. Then, he looked at Yi Junlin with a grateful face and said, thank you for the treasure of junior brother Yi, which allowed us to gain something inside. Yi Junlin waved his hand, anyway, I'll just go in and take a look. How lucky you are is your business. Suddenly, seeing that Li Wuji, who was always generous, became a little depressed, Yi Junlin asked out of curiosity, Xiao Li, what's wrong with you? Li Wuji was dejected, Master, my sculpture is gone. What, Yi Junlin couldn't help but move his eyes down, his expression full of pity. It's only been a few days since he went in, and that thing is gone. What a sin. Others were shocked and sympathetic to Li Wuji's experience. The leader of Kangjian Peak patted Li Wuji on the shoulder and comforted him. Men don't cry easily, but they just haven't reached the point of being sad. If you really feel sad, just cry. By the way, how did you lose that thing? The leader of Kangjian Peak suddenly changed the subject and asked impatiently. Li Wuji noticed that everyone's expressions were not right, realized his slip of the tongue, and quickly clarified, well, I was talking about my big eagle. Okay, your big one is okay, right? The leader of Kangjian Peak said unhappily, that thing is gone and you still emphasize it, what kind of person is this? Li Wuji's eyes twitched, and he resisted the urge to draw his sword and chop people, and patiently explained, I met the flying mount that I surrendered in the 3rd level before, but it didn't recognize me. Do you understand? The eagle is a real eagle. Everyone, tisk, Yi Junlin was speechless. So you have a special liking for the big eagle, right? What a weird hobby. I understand. The creatures there are very arrogant. After all, they all come from extraordinary backgrounds. How could they treat us well? The leader of Kangjian Peak shook his head. Brother, look at it more openly. That's right, Hong Chenny rarely agreed, and felt very touched. After all, he was a victim of personal experience. Even chickens, fish, and donkeys there were all from great backgrounds. Li Wuji was very disappointed, but he seemed to think of something. A gleam of light burst out of his eyes, and he gritted his teeth and said, "No, I want to become stronger and get its recognition as soon as possible. I'll ride this eagle." Seeing that his apprentice was inexplicably full of fighting spirit, Yi Junlin couldn't persuade him anymore, so he had to say encouragingly, "Come on." Suddenly, the face of the sect leader Shu Yunian changed slightly. "Sect master, what happened?" Sensing the change in the middle-aged man's expression, the master of Tianxiang Peak frowned and asked. Sect master Shu Yunian said in a deep voice, "I just received news from many elders that the Yuha sect is preparing to attack the abyss to avoid future troubles." What? Everyone was surprised. This was a major battle worthy of being recorded in history. You must know that the sages of the human race have repeatedly repelled the creatures of the abyss and made them retreat back into the abyss. But like this time, there are immortal sects who want to invade the abyss at any cost. This is the first time this has happened. After all, the human race forces in the past were all in control, and no one was willing to take such a big risk and go deep into the lair of those dark creatures. Because if there are heavy casualties and serious damage to the vitality, not only will the power status to which they belong will plummet, but there will also be the danger of being taken advantage of by enemies. It's laborious and thankless. It is human nature for everyone to have such concerns. Therefore, if the underworld has been allowed to continue to exist for so many years, as long as the creatures inside come out to cause trouble, they can unite again to fight back. This is why the Yuha sect made such a decision, which suddenly shocked countless people. This Yuhua sect has changed its gender. Although we have had issues with it, but looking at it now, it is quite good. The master of Hidden Sword Peak said in shock. The problem is that there has been a turmoil in the outside world recently. All forces have expressed their intention to assist the Yuha sect, establish the Eastern Territory Alliance Army, and join this expedition. And Xuantian sect's current reputation and status are difficult to stay away from, so, the sect leader Shu Yunian pondered. Today's Xuantian sect is already the second largest immortal sect in the eastern region. It deserves its reputation. Every move will be closely watched. If it fails to set an example, it will definitely arouse criticism. Is this really the case? Yi Junlin's eyes flickered. He thought of the clone of King Dangyu who was killed before, and the man behind the scenes who was suspected of manipulating the situation in the eastern region. Yi Junlin had a strange thought in his heart when he saw Yuha sect's sudden and aggressive attack on Mingyuan. Ding, congratulations to the host for triggering the new sign-in location, Mingyuan. If you sign in successfully, you will receive unexpected rewards. Close black lens bracket. At this time, the system prompt sounded in my mind. Yi Junlin chuckled. It seemed it was time to go to that ghost place. Sect master, let me represent Xuantian sect and go to Mingyuan. Yi Junlin said. Junior brother Yi, you must not do this. You should stay in the sect and take charge. I and several other peak masters can lead the team. Sect leader Shu Yunian said quickly. In his opinion, his junior brother is the pillar of Xuantian sect. Even if they all die, as long as the junior brother is still there, Xuantian sect will not fall. But if even the junior brother has an accident, for Xuantian Zong is a huge loss. No need, I've decided to leave. Yi Junlin waved his hand. The sect leader Shu Yunian was also helpless. Sect master, just follow junior brother Yi's wishes. With his cultivation level, I don't believe that this ghost place in Mingyuan can threaten his existence. The master of Tianxiang Peak said confidently. Hey, well, it's better to be careful in everything. The sect leader Shu Yunian said with a bitter smile. Even if he didn't agree, what could he do? Haha, labor and management have long wanted to avenge the dead human compatriots. This time we can fight into the abyss with the master, which is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Li Wuj looked extremely excited, holding the handle of the knife at his waist tightly in his hand, his eyes flashing with bloodthirsty light. I will definitely go completely crazy by then. Yi Junlin's sleeves were tugged. He looked down and saw the silver-haired Lolita raising her childish and cute face. She said expectantly, Master, are you going out to play? Take Shushu with me. Yi Junlin smiled and touched Bai Shaoxi's head. Okay, Master will take you on a one-day trip to Mingyuan to check in as a souvenir. Bai Shaoxi raised her hands happily. Okay, we can go out and play again. By the way, then Shushu must quickly make more food and the milk tea that Master likes to drink. Bai Shaoxi reacted and quickly ran to the workbench to start working. Shu Yunian and the others looked at each other, and those who didn't know it thought they were traveling as a group. That is the abyss, which has always been known as the most mysterious and dangerous place. This must be the only one who can be so calm and calm. The days passed. Soon, it was the appointed time. The eastern region is turbulent, and heroes from all directions are gathering. Rumble. Densely packed and huge warships were dispatched, and countless practitioners were either flying with swords or riding horses, heading for the assembly point, Shanhaiguan, like streams flowing into the sea. Chapter 199. C-199 all gathered at Shanhaiguan. Shanhai Pass. The terrain here is steep, and the dark mountains are like a giant dragon circling, highlighting a majestic momentum. Behind it is the vast sea, with turbulent waves, sometimes rolling up waves several meters high, slapping the rocks. This place is particularly special, because as long as you go north for 50 miles, it is the forbidden land of the human race that is independent of the entire 14 states of the eastern region, the Dark Abyss. As the leader of the Eastern Region Coalition this time, the leader of the Yuha sect led the elders and disciples to the assembly place early. The crowd was huge, standing everywhere on the mountain, and a flag symbolizing the sect was fluttering in the wind. The 3 words, Yuha sect, were golden and particularly conspicuous. Sect Master, things are going very smoothly at the moment. Old Lu was dressed in a gray robe, his hair and beard were all white, and he was in high spirits. His wrinkled old face was smiling, but this smile made people feel a chill. The eyes of the leader of Yuha sect were as deep as the starry night, his hands were behind his back was as straight as a spear, and he exuded a transcendent temperament, as if he could be transformed into an immortal at any time. As soon as Lu Lao finished speaking, a sneer appeared at the corner of the leader's mouth. That's right, the reason why there has been so much movement recently is that he has hired 800,000 professional Navy soldiers in secret to set the pace in many places in the eastern region. Although the amount of top-grade spirit crystals spent in the process is so huge that even he, the leader of a sect, feels painful, but as long as the plan succeeds, everything is worth it. After all, if you want to make the fish take the bait, you must first work harder on the bait. Now that the plan has achieved the most perfect expectation, wait until all the strong men from all the cultivation forces in the eastern region come to Shanhaiguan. Then he can start the last crucial step and lead them all into the nether abyss to catch them all. If the plan goes well, the 14 states in the eastern region will be seriously injured, and there will be a lack of successors and a desolate phenomenon of inheritance. By then, the situation will be decided and there will be no chance of reversal. As the thought turned, the leader of Yuha sect sighed to the sky and said with pity, "Hey, I hope they don't blame me in the underworld. This is all helpless." Old Lu behind him agreed with him and said solemnly, "The leader did this because he was forced by the general situation. What's wrong? If you want to blame someone, blame them for their bad luck." The leader of Yuha sect turned his head and glanced at him, nodding in appreciation. "Not bad, you know how to comfort people. Master, look, they are coming." Old Lu suddenly noticed something and reminded him quickly. Rumble. At this time, a huge shadow began to cover Shanhaiguan. Looking closely, countless mighty warships were coming in the sky. A large number of monks stood on the deck, each carrying a long sword, with their eyes burning with raging flames of war. There were also armies representing the dynasties, riding war beasts, holding long spears, wearing metal armor, whistling in the wind, and the battle flags covering the sky and the sun fluttering. A large number of high-level monks followed one after another, emitting brilliant light on their bodies, like stars adorning the sky, releasing a vast and boundless aura. My Qingmu dynasty is here to help. My Kanghai sect is here to help. My Xuanji sword sect is here to help. My Dao sect is here to help. My Great Zhou dynasty is here to help. My Lingzhou Shui family is here to help. In the sky, countless shouts rang out, with endless fighting spirit, shaking the sky for 100,000 miles. Looking around, the oppression of this eastern region coalition was very strong, and the killing aura filled every inch of Shanhaiguan. Facing this situation, the leader of the Yuha sect standing on the cliff narrowed his eyes slightly, with a gleam of coldness in his eyes, and the corners of his mouth lifted uncontrollably and then returned to normal. Having seen many storms and waves, he, who was in a high position and had great power, knew what he needed to do on such an important occasion. At this time, in full view of the public, this middle-aged man with extraordinary demeanor bowed and said with sincerity, "I represent the Yuha sect, thank you fellow Taoists for coming to help." At this time, being polite and lowering your posture to give enough face can better improve your favorability and win everyone's trust. This is emotional intelligence. Master Wan is too polite. We are helping the Yuha sect and helping ourselves. Fan Deshang of the Dao sect bowed and said. That's right. Everyone nodded. Since Yuha sect is determined to attack the Nether Abyss, we will definitely help them. This battle concerns the face of our human race, and there must be no mistakes. The cold voice sounded like a cold wind in all directions. The speaker was a cold man in white clothes, standing with a sword, his eyes as bright as the scorching sun, and a trace of immortal aura permeating his body. This man is the new sword immortal, Shui Wuan. Behind him, the sword cultivator team of Xuanji sword sect. Each sword cultivator stood tall with his head held high, his eyes bright. After all, they were very excited to be led by a real sword immortal. Seeing Shui Wuan speak, Wan Chengwei's face changed slightly, a trace of cold sweat overflowed from his forehead, and he did not dare to neglect his hands and said, Shui Zhanxian is right. As the saying goes, below the immortals, we are all ants. Even if his status is high, he is only a perfect calamity. As long as he has not become an immortal, it is nothing but clouds. Facing a powerful being who had achieved immortality through swordsmanship, Wan Chengwei clearly felt how insignificant he was. Even though the other party did not deliberately release his pressure, his scalp still tingled and his hair stood on end. HMPH, it doesn't matter if you are a swordsman. Once you are led into the trap set by the divine envoy, it will be up to you whether you live or die. Wan Chengwei said secretly in his heart. Haha, with the snow sword immortal joining us, why should we be afraid? Don't worry, all of you Taoists are gathered together today. This battle will be won without a doubt. By the way, if Senior Yi is also present, he must be more confident. Wait a minute, where is Senior Yi? Doesn't Xuantian sect have any intention of taking action? Discussions suddenly broke out, and they were all pointed at Xuantian sect, or Yi Junlin to be precise. After all, this is the most powerful person in the eastern region. If he comes to help at this special moment, it will definitely have an inspiring effect. Therefore, the monks present were very concerned about whether Yi Junlin came or not. Hearing the discussion, Wan Chengwei's eyes were dark and unclear. You know, the biggest goal of this plan is to get rid of this person. It would be best if he could be present. If he really didn't come, there would indeed be a fly in the ointment. Ahem, don't panic, everyone. Wan Chengwei pretended to cough a few times and said seriously, perhaps Yi Shengxian has calculated in advance that we can easily conquer the abyss alone, so he didn't come to help. These words not only comfort people's hearts, but also maintain the image of others. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone, which is enough to demonstrate the charm of language art. Hearing this, many people secretly sighed at the high emotional intelligence of the leader of the Yuha sect. Senior Yi, are you really not coming? Shui Wuan sighed slightly, feeling a little regretful. In his heart, he still hoped to fight alongside that person. Rumble. However, at this moment, a thunderous rumble sounded, and the aura of the majestic and domineering king spread wildly, making everyone look in shock. A loud cry similar to that of a blue whale came from a distance, causing countless monks' heads to buzz and their bodies to surge with energy and blood. It was a mythical creature whose body was so huge that it could cover the sky and the sun. It flapped its wings and set off majestic air currents that roared past. The surrounding void showed ripples, and the scene was terrifying. After being fed the best pet animal feed, Akun quickly grew to the level of perfect tribulation. This also resulted in the pressure it brought when it appeared on the stage, which was more powerful than before and full of force. In an instant, the other people's mounts felt a bloodline suppression and were trembling with fear, their eyes full of fear. I recognize it. This is Yi Shengxian's mount, Kunpeng. Someone exclaimed. Oh my god, it's incredible that the demon emperor who has successfully passed through the tribulation has become a mount. Another person murmured with a shocked expression. What's wrong with the mount? That's Yi Shengxian's mount. Is it embarrassing to be a mount for an immortal? Suddenly, a voice sounded from the crowd. As soon as these words came out, everyone thought it made sense. Yes, so what if he is the demon emperor? Serving as a mount for an immortal will not degrade your status, on the contrary, it will increase your status. If there is a chance, I would also like to be a mount for Yi Shengxian. Among them, a voluptuous and resplendent female monk whispered with a flushed face. Swish swish swish. As Kunpeng made his high-profile appearance, countless powerful men unanimously made way for him and paid their respects with awe. Sect Master, he's here. Old Lu swallowed his saliva, feeling frightened. Remembering the conflict he had with that person in Taoist sect before, Old Lu felt chills all over his body and felt frightened for a while. HMPH, what a grandeur. Wan Chengwei felt very unhappy because the opponent's mount was actually on par with him. But then I thought about it again, why would he, the majestic leader of the Yuha sect, compete with other people's horses? Just when Wan Chengwei was feeling complicated, Kunpeng had already arrived in the sky above Shanhaiguan. His blazing eyes were like two suns, staring at the Yuha gate team. The disciples and elders of the Yuha sect took a few steps back, showing fear on their faces. As the number one holy land in the eastern region, they can be arrogant towards everyone, but only towards the Xuantian sect, they have an obvious lack of confidence. Kun, calm down, you're scaring others. A clear voice sounded faintly from Kunpeng. Senior Yi, it's an honor to see you again. Shui Wuan looked very excited. Ever since he saw Yi Junlin destroy the raging flame demon dragon with a spit of phlegm, which was comparable to the 5th level of the true immortal, the admiration in his heart could not be greater. What's more, this is the mentor who guides him to become a sword immortal, and is his savior. Who are you? Oh, I remember, Xiaoshui, right. The familiar voice sounded casually. This title made everyone instantly dumbfounded. The famous white-clothed swordsman Shui Wuan was actually called Xiaoshui by that person. This is really... Just when everyone thought that Shui Wuan would show his displeasure, no one expected that when Shui Wuan heard this title, he responded happily, hey. Dollar window. Underscore tabula equals window. Underscore tabula underscore tabula. Push mode, thumbs feed 01, container, tabula below article thumbnail, 300 times 250 feet, placement, below article thumbnail 300 times 250 feet, target underscore type, mix. Chapter 200, C200 The leader of Yuha sect. Damn, they are coming for me. When Shui Wuan responded enthusiastically, everyone present almost dropped their jaws in shock, their eyes full of disbelief. Is this still the white-clothed sword immortal who is always known for his aloofness and expressionless face? He has simply become a dog to lick Yi Junlin. Where is your status as a sword immortal? Where is your moral integrity? From this, it can be seen that through the attitude shown by Shui Wuan, it is enough to see that he, who is also a true immortal, has a huge gap with Yi Junlin. Thinking of this, everyone's awe of Yi Junlin deepened. Haha, they are all here. Swish. Suddenly, a handsome young man with long silver hair falling to his waist appeared in the air with his hands behind his back. He was surrounded by a fairy aura, his skin was crystal clear like jade, and his eyes were bright, making it difficult to look directly at him. Yi Shangxian, on behalf of the sect master, I would like to say hello to you. Fan Desheng bowed his hands respectfully and said, thank you again for extending a helping hand to my Wendao sect at that time. When Fan Desheng saw Yi Junlin again, he was deeply moved. Who would have thought that the one who came to Wendao sect at that time was actually a real immortal? In his mind, recalling the scene of the other party using the immortal weapon to sweep across the 8 directions, Fan Desheng felt that he would never forget it, and at the same time, he felt a little self-deprecating in his heart. After all, the other party had already used the immortal weapon at that time, and the identity of the immortal was already obvious. He just didn't want to believe it. After all, who would carry an immortal weapon with him when he went out in the realm of tribulation? Do you have one? Anyway, I don't have one. Yi Junlin waved his hand, this matter has passed, no need to mention it again. Liar. Next to Fan Desheng, there was a woman wearing goose-yellow clothes and looking elegant and refined. Her big eyes reflected that peerless figure, and she pursed her lips with resentment. During the recovery of the world, Miaoyi accidentally broke into a cave that seemed to be an ancient immortal. Not only did she obtain a large amount of natural treasures, she also found a treasured technique suitable for her cultivation, called the 9-turn star technique. This technique is extremely suitable for her star immortal body, and it is twice as effective with half the effort. She broke through from the fusion realm to the Mahayana on the spot. Then Miaoyi worked hard all the way, and her cultivation level improved by leaps and bounds. She just broke through to the early stage of the tribulation realm a while ago. Originally, Miaoyi was very excited, thinking that if she worked hard, she could realize her original bold words, catch up with that man, or even surpass him. As a result, an astonishing news came, which ruthlessly shattered her beautiful dream. That man, in fact, had already become an immortal. And Miaoyi couldn't describe her feelings at that time in words. She climbed to the top of the mountain with great enthusiasm, thinking that she would be close to her goal after a few steps. But when she looked up with a sense of accomplishment, she saw that there were still 100,000 mountains waiting for her in front of her. Who can understand this feeling? So, when she saw Yi Junlin again, Miaoyi felt very complicated. On the one hand, she was very happy that the other party was actually stronger than she thought, but on the other hand, she was afraid that he was too strong and she couldn't bear it. It was very contradictory. Yi Shangxian, do you still remember me? The prince of the great Zhou dynasty dismounted and said with a fanatical face, you played the immortal music in person that day, which made the fortune of the great Zhou dynasty rise and the blessings continue. My father is still enjoying your kindness until now, and I really can't repay you. Yi Junlin looked at it carefully for a few times, thinking that it was true, and nodded, your country's prince has also come to help. When he first saw the creatures of the underworld, it was on the land of the great Zhou dynasty. It was also there that he played the Guqin and destroyed the ghost army with the sound of the Guqin. In the end, he also learned about the existence of the Stargate. The prince of the great Zhou dynasty said seriously, before, the army of the underworld disturbed our great Zhou. Now there is an opportunity to turn defense into offense. Naturally, I have to personally lead the army to help. My father also agrees with my decision. And it is my supreme honor to meet Yi Shangxian again, proving that my trip is not in vain. At this point, the prince of the great Zhou looked at Yi Junlin with fiery eyes and admiration. He should have thought that the one who could play such a mysterious immortal music that day must be a true immortal, but he still thought it was a Mahayana cultivator. He was really blind. Okay, Yi Junlin said truthfully, the meal you invited me to eat in Dazhou tasted good. He remembered that the state banquet of Dazhou had rich ingredients and endless aftertaste. If Yi Shangxian doesn't mind, my Dazhou will invite you to dinner every day. You can eat whatever you want. The prince of Dazhou seized the opportunity and said respectfully in an emotional voice. Just kidding, to win over such a top giant, let alone a state banquet, even if it is held 100 or 1,000 times, what's wrong? Seeing that the prince of Dazhou could talk to Yi Shangxian, many people present were almost crazy with jealousy and envy. They also wanted to find a topic to establish a relationship. But the problem is that there is no way to start, because there was no substantial communication before. At this moment, a flattering voice sounded, Yi Shangxian, I have missed you very much since you left my house. I am honored to see you today. I wonder if you still remember me. The speaker was a tall middle-aged man with purple hair hanging down to his waist. He bowed to Yi Junlin humbly and spoke carefully. Yi Junlin was stunned. Who is this? Who are you? Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows, a little unhappy, thinking that this person was deliberately deceiving him. Seeing this, the Shui family ancestor was frightened and quickly added, I am the ancestor of the Lingzhou Shui family. I held a banquet before, and you honored me with an appointment. And for you, I personally aborted 2 children. Everyone. Yi Junlin was fine when he heard the first half, but suddenly felt something was wrong. What do you mean by aborting 2 children for me? You should be more clear. Feeling the murderous eyes, the Shui family ancestor suddenly realized his slip of the tongue, and corrected with a sad face. I mean, those 2 beasts offended your beloved disciples at the time, and I killed them alive for the sake of justice. I remember that Shui Tianyi, the eldest son of the Shui family, defiled Li Wuji's sister, which led to Li Wuji's assassination. His father, the head of the Shui family, protected Shui Tianyi. Finally, under the coercion of Yi Junlin, the Shui family ancestor personally cleaned up the family. At this time, the old things were brought up again, and Yi Junlin recalled it. The murderous look in his eyes was restrained, and he warned in a tone, you old boy, remember to think clearly before you speak next time. Yes, it's mainly because I was very excited to see you, so I said the wrong thing. The ancestor of the Shui family was sweating profusely, with a smile on his face. He wanted to use this to establish a relationship, but ended up making things worse because of a sentence. So embarrassing. Everyone gloated over the misfortune and looked down on them. Ahem. Wan Changwei thought it was my turn, so he pretended to cough a few times, bowed his hands, and smiled like a spring breeze. I am Wan Changwei, the leader of Yuha sect, and I meet Yi Shangxian. Although Yuha sect had a conflict with Xuantian sect before, and the battle was heavy and embarrassing, but in this occasion, he still pretended to be as enthusiastic as if he met a good friend. If you don't know, you really think that Yuha sect has forgotten the past. At this moment, the whole place was silent. Wan Changwei still smiled, thinking that his performance was perfect. He showed his broad mind and decent manners in front of everyone, and he was worthy of the leadership style. After all, this is a manifestation of high emotional intelligence. After a while, Yi Junlin asked in a serious tone, Changwei, I want to ask you about Lai Fu. Wan Changwei was stunned, suspecting that he had heard it wrong. Who is Lai Fu? Is he famous? Speak. Yi Junlin stared, exuding the breath of an immortal, and scolded. Me, Wan Changwei was so scared that his face turned pale, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. At this time, he was confused, racking his brains to recall whether there was a person named Lai Fu among the enemies he had killed before. Could it be that this person's identity is very important? Window. Underscore tabula equals window. Underscore tabula underscore tabula. Push mode, thumbs feed 01, container, tabula below article thumbnail, 300 times 250 feet, placement, below article thumbnail 300 times 250 feet, target underscore type, mix,